Hey, hello, welcome everybody. Welcome new listeners as we start to bring European awareness into the real fore of the Tudor Chat fan base. Germany, France, welcome. Holland, growing. Yeah, this is amazing, mind-blowing, humbling. So that's awesome. Thank you very much. Also, the reaction to Saskia Shulay's episode has just been so warm and lovely, and as I'd hoped it would be, because that is what she is. She's just radiating lovely, warm energy, and everything she touches, and yeah, she's just got the good stuff, the good stuff that makes you want to be better. So really, really pleased with that. She's a special girl, and we're lucky to have her in little old Lincoln. So that's been lovely. People sharing it and the messages we've had. It's been great. Today's sponsors are the mighty, powerful Go Deep Flotation. Speaking of feeling good, sharing positivity, get yourself in the tank for an hour. Treat yourself. Life is crackers. It's crazy. We're in the phones. We're in the cars. We're in the office. We're on the site. We're cracking on. We're doing stuff, whatever it is. We are just having to get stuff done all the time. And, you can find a minute to say, you know what? My body, my mind does deserve some blissful, cut off from this. Search Go Deep Flotation in Google. Use the code word CHEW and get yourself 10% off of a 60-minute float where you slip into the universe on your own. 600 kilos of salt, Epsom salts to be exact, which secrete magnesium in water that's heated to skin temperature. So as you lay in it, you just melt into it and you float, and all of your body's just alleviated from the grind of being upright on your feet. Science will tell you all of the things that it does for your body, for recovery, for inflammation, and just fantastic things, as well as psychologically for your mind, for clearing clutter, for housekeeping in the mind, for positive thinking, for creativity. It's endless. So do check it out. I promise you will not regret it. Tell a friend. Code word CHEW, 10% off. Go Deep Flotation. Do it. Also, our sponsors, lincolncryolab.co.uk. Same mindset, same philosophy, same outcome, different modem. 3 minutes in minus 145 degree temperature will shoot your body into your vital organs. Your blood will think that someone's turned the lights out and this is it and it's over. And in doing so, it triggers all of the primal responses that just rejuvenate your blood. And when you get back out, your blood will pump back around your body, like having, God's oil change. And again, get the Google out. If we are going to use these phones, let's use them for something useful now and again. And just Google cryotherapy benefits. Cross-reference that with the do's and the don'ts with it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's being used by athletes and sporting powerhouses all around the globe, and has been for a long time, because the science has been used for the recovery element of things, injury recovery. It's much like the floating. It's just doing all of the things that nature requires to recover our physical bodies. But the wonderful thing that we found is the alleviation of stress in the mind as well. Finding space in the mind, headspace. Cryotherapy, just like flotation therapy, you're achieving this kind of well-being, a long-term well-being as well, because if you can slot these things in to your schedule once a month, and yeah, we've just said the schedule's pretty bonkers. We've all got the jobs, we've all got kids at the childminders, and we've got this event and that event, and we've got to be here and we've got to be there, and everything is go. And it is always easy to say, I will do, I'll get to it, I'm busy, I'll slot it in, and then our version of kind of relaxing is maybe flicking the telly on and having the news telling us whatever with our feet up, and you got to do a little bit more than that if you can. If you're in a position where you've got a bit of time that you can drag out from somewhere, get yourself across to a cryotherapy at Lincoln Cryo Lab and do 3 minutes. That's all it is. 3 minutes. Take you longer to park, and you will come out of that thing like you've never felt. Literally like you've never felt, because you can never have been in that situation, had those conditions and dynamics. So yeah, if you're interested in living well and living long, give it a whirl, and then share it with people you care about. If you know somebody who's struggling physically, or mentally, depression, anxiety, all of the social media data input that's just blowing us all around the place, this is great for that. You will find, if you Google it, all of these are some of the top benefits of doing things like cryotherapy and float therapy. So if you use the code word CHEW, you'll get 10% off at lincolncryolab.co.uk. Get in touch with those guys and book your cryo. Okay, today's episode is a left field from the usual podcast, where, as you know by now, if you've only just joined us, Chew the Chat podcast is essentially my fascination with childhood and growing up and dynamics, and how the trajectory is so often set when we have no ability to control it or dictate it in any way. It's only when we kind of evolve into grown-ups that we have any kind of hindsight to realise, oh shit, yeah, that affected me, that dynamic that I had no control over, that set me up on this path, rightly or wrongly. So that's kind of the backbone of Chew the Chat podcast. I love just speaking to interesting people that aren't necessarily with high profile. So many podcasts, and the UK is really catching on now with podcasts. A lot of it is kind of celebrities and comedians and actors and things like that, sort of doing one another's podcasts, and they're great. But I think some of the best podcasts I've ever been inspired by are often with people that I've never heard of, who are just living ordinary lives. They may have done extraordinary things, however small or significant or insignificant they may be, but everybody else is interesting to you because they're not you, because you're trapped in your skin thinking that everybody else is having it better, doing it better, feeling it better, finding it better, whatever. But they're not. They're just the same as you. We're all trapped behind our eyes. So I think we try and give a platform to the people that we can relate to, because they are us and we are them. So that's Chew the Chat in a nutshell. As a kind of a slipstream to the podcast, I wanted to incorporate, I'm one of 4 brothers. I have 3 brothers. There's 4 of us in total. So this podcast is the first episode of what we're naming 4 Brothers, which is essentially us catching up, truth be told. As I've banged on in all of these introductions, life's fast, life's busy, and trying to find time to get together and actually get into some real talk, and not just busy, how you got, work good, oh brilliant, I'm gonna, I'll have the chicken dinner please mate, and a pint, lovely, really good, kids are good, kind of that superficial on the surface thing, because we've got an hour and we're having a quick meal or whatever it may be. I wanted to use this podcast as a bit of an excuse to get together and use our dynamic as brothers to discuss how we're getting on, trying to function and trying to find our way through life. And in doing so, I'm sure we'll shed light on our childhood. 4 of us combined, from the same nest, but with very different stories, very different personalities, very different outlooks, views, perspectives. So, and there'll be a lot of fun. These are going to be messy and noisy. And this one in particular, we drank a lot of brandy. We used a lot of CBD, strong CBD. And it gets, as you would imagine, obviously credit to the boys, they've never done a podcast, so we were a little bit, the mic sensitivity is a bit all over the place, and there's moments when we start to get a little bit animated and colourful as the brandy and what have you kicks in, as you will tell. But I think we just about held it together, and we'll only get better from doing it in a professional sense in terms of mic control and audio distribution, and just letting someone finish a fucking story and not flying in and so on and so forth. But really enjoyed it. It was really cathartic. It was a wonderful, lovely experience. There's something happens when you do these podcasts. There's something magical when you get the headphones on and you're kind of locked in. It's a special thing. It's really nice. And we had a real giggle. And we will do this, there'll probably be a few of these a year, just to break up the main podcast now and again. And we'll chat humour and art and culture and films and podcasts and all the things that are happening. Tyson Fury had just fought when we did this podcast. So there's lots of talk in there. And we cover the Joker movie. So there is spoiler alert here, right? Big spoiler alert. We'd lost our way completely with the brandy. By the time we start talking about movies, I didn't even think about it. It was too late. So I'm giving you it now. This is the spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the Joker and any other film we talk about, there is spoilers. So just be warned. Massive spoilers. In fact, you would not even bother watching it after you've heard this. But you should, and I'm sure you will. But we do not hold back. So, yeah, bear with that. I think I make a fantastic balls up of a director. I confuse a director with a DJ somewhere towards the end. It's fantastic. I mean, I'll not give it away now. I'll let you work that out. But it's beautiful. It's a moment of gold. Check that out. But yeah, this is messy, so you are being warned. This is four brothers drinking, vaping the CBD, catching up, and just, backslapping and having fun. So I hope you enjoy it. Stick with us. If you do enjoy it, share it to a friend. Like, subscribe, jump on the socials. You can follow us. This is episode number 6 of the Tudor Chat podcast. Four brothers.
Welcome to Tudor Chat Podcast.
Still sound distant?
No, not now. No, we're in the real world.
We're on, baby.
This is how it should be.
I can't wait.
Well, I'll give a quick insight then. This is not to confuse people off the bat, but you've already had the intro for the podcast, and this is the start of the podcast, although it's a re-record because we had the audio on and it was clipping and it was not good audio. We couldn't use it. So at the end of this podcast, we realised we could just drop in, but then we kind of missed a little bit of you getting acquainted with these guys' voices. So now we're a few brandies and a few CBD. Yeah. CBD, yeah. And all of them.
Get down here and
yeah, so it's a lot. Essentially, we're just re-amending the start, which was, on my right is George, the youngest sibling, the youngest of 5. Sat here with my 3 older brothers for what has been a nice and lovely experience. Well, recognise that voice. That is the G-Ride. That is George.
The G-Force. The G-Ride.
The Junglist.
George.
Across from George is Joseph.
I'm Joseph. I will be the second youngest.
That's right.
I'm also the baldest. Well, that's something that I'm still struggling with to this day, but I pretend that it doesn't bother me. But it's all good. It's all love. It's all good.
Joseph, make yourself acquainted with that voice. And across from me, we have Harry.
That's me. Still here, still riding. Second in command.
There we go. Well, we've recorded this bit at the end of the podcast because, like I said, the first section was audio not usable. So check in with this podcast and let's see how it goes, because it gets rather... Hello, son.
It's nearly time for pizza.
All right. Well, that'll make sense when you listen to the bit before.
Outcome will be the same, but I think the way it unfolds would be a bit different. I think Deontay Wilder will come out of a bit more of a fight.
Yeah, he's got the know-how now.
But I just think
he knows what would happen.
Just too good for him.
He's a freak, and he's freakishly good.
You're right. If he did come out this third time,
yeah.
it would have to be like a car park scrap.
Yeah,
Wouldn't it?
yeah.
It would be like a couple of novices.
Because he knows full well
he's got to go in
he's
there
in front of.
all 100 mile an hour. Yeah. It'd be messy. What do you think the way Tyson Fury handled it all and stuff, and how his kind of PR?
Well, it says a lot for belief, doesn't it? You know, you look around, you look at a similar story to the Conor McGregor thing, innit? Regardless of, you know, it's belief, innit? And he's always believed. Like, I read his book on the plane to Thailand. It took me 6 hours. And then that's what it is. That's what he's about. He's all about belief. He's not.
He's a fighting man. He's a fighting man for 300 years.
He's not about anybody else, is he?
He's not in it for celebrity or for, you know, he's in it to prove to himself that he's the fucking best in the world, and he's doing it, isn't he?
Go on, Joe.
There was a time though when Tyson Fury was hated, and no one took him seriously.
No, and he hasn't changed. I mean, he's just been a bit more open about his personal things, hasn't he? And that's what's got people on. But people are picking up stories from 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and highlighting, you know, how that. And he's just overlooked, wasn't he? Because he's a pikey. Exactly, that's why. And he says it himself. He's got
the ITV programme teed him with the Deontay Wilder thing at the moment.
Which have you been watching? Have you watched any of his?
Yeah, I've watched it, yeah.
And what have you thought of that? Because
it was good, but I think that was from the beginning of his comeback, that was from before the Deontay Wilder fight, wasn't it? And no, it's good. I love him, I do. I think he's great.
I'll tell you what was a little surprising I found in the first couple of episodes of that, though, is he still seems, which obviously he does, obviously, you know,
he's talking about the mental health thing.
Yeah, and even watching the series, there's still elements of day to day, which is admirable,
and
obviously.
And I think that's something I've taken from it, is that it doesn't matter. Like when Chester Bennington committed suicide, I was thinking, fucking hell, dude's got everything. You know what I mean? He's obviously lived his dream, done all that, and even if you get to that point and it's still not enough, you know, what chance has the normal man got? Do you know what I mean? And then, but the way that Tyson Fury put it across, it just makes you realise it's not about none of that. None of that matters. It's an ongoing battle. And
for everybody on an equal playing field,
and you just got to keep going. And circumstances contribute, don't they? And experiences and that. And it's harder for some than it is for others.
Isn't it strange though how so many of us civvies, let's say, normal people, kind of the way culture drives us towards looking at people in the spotlight, people in the limelight, people that we spend our free time watching. You know, you get back from your mundane job, you kick back on the sofa, you stick on the YouTube, you catch up on all the whatever it is. You might be like we're talking about Tyson Fury. You watch his videos, and you think, "Fucking, if I just got a fucking bone thrown to me, you know, if I just managed to get, you know." But it's no different. Like it is no different. If even as your point,
there's an element of destiny and fate in the Tyson Fury story, though, isn't there? I mean, he's called Tyson, isn't he? He's named, you know, his dad said, didn't he?
Prematurely
he's going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. It's his life story before he was even born.
Yeah, it's written.
And I think that's a big thing of why he's become so popular, because it's that hope, innit? That, you know, that it is, even if it hadn't happened for me, it's still happening to someone. Do you know what I mean? That dreams come true. And obviously there's a lot of work involved. And I think that's what he shows quite well, because he's a fat bastard, isn't he?
He's a big lad.
He's a fat bastard, and he's got to cut down.
The stereotype, you know, how does a man that big move as he moves?
Belief. I think it all comes down to belief. There's been a few situations in my life where somebody's outright belief has beaten all the odds. Like Tony in Thailand, you know.
There's examples, isn't there?
There's a lot of people where the belief is enough.
And that belief is often a driving force for the motivation to actually do the grinding, the hard work, the pushing through things, the difficult bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the bit that you know, you mentioned that people are going back now to early clips of stuff where he's saying, I will do this, and then I will do that, and then I will do this. I remember a time when I was using social media much more, and you would get into the whole back and forth with people on whatever it was, you know, and you'd be on a feed and, you know, fucking...
I just write stuff out now. I write it out. Exactly what I want to say, and I put them in and then I just delete it.
Yeah, that's one of the stages. That's one of the stages of the social exit. But I remember a time. I can remember not defending Tyson Fury, but sort of making my point, which was at the time it was when AJ had come out on the scene, and he was starting to go through people, off the back of the Olympics and stuff. And he was doing his interviews, and he's obviously Sky media darling, the media trained, and they build a profile and they sell you the profile, and it's all about marketing and selling, maximising his appeal. Where Tyson Fury finishes his fight, sings half a song and then says something crazy. And the point I was trying to make was, when people were knocking Tyson Fury, was that what you're getting with Tyson Fury, whether you like it or not, is truth.
Yeah, realness.
Truth.
And
you don't have to agree with what he's
thing.
saying, but he isn't just reeling off to you something off of a script that is rehearsed from his media training, because we don't go there because that's going to push that demographic
It's exactly
away.
the same thing with Liam Gallagher, and I think that's where his popularity in the new generation sort of comes from as well. Is that just realness.
Mm-hmm. Defying
what
the,
you see is what you get,
and not going with the mainstream.
Pleasing
trying
everybody.
to,
Yeah.
And I think that's what people. And I think people's admiration in that is partly due to the lack of that in themselves, in a way, of having that fucking drive.
Yeah, totally. And
I mean,
it's like a double-edged sword, because by the voyeurism of social media, where we're looking into it and then we can quickly write out our little couple of sentences of
or we put a filter on it.
Yeah, and then go back to
It works.
it's a strange thing. But I tell you, the other thing I found interesting, and you mentioned him earlier, is John Fury, his dad. So I know a little bit about the Furies, because obviously Tommy's come through as a boxer, and he's got six sons, which is pretty
Who's
mad.
the young brother who's on Love Island at the moment? That's his brother.
That was Tommy
was
Fury.
wild,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that's his younger brother.
But he's doing well boxing. But what I notice about John, I mean, if you were to take, like most people, I guess the majority of people, maybe not listening to this, because the people listening to this are seeking out, alternative means of information or entertainment, but a majority of people who are picking up tabloid papers or watching the news, watching televised, traditional television, the narrative of John Fury is that he's a traveller who's been to jail, and he's this and that and the other. I don't know if you know the story about him going to jail, but
Yeah.
but when you get down into these kind of IFL
He
London,
got in a scrap, didn't he?
Well, apparently gouged somebody's eye out, didn't he?
well, with the travellers, obviously all the families,
This teacup's no more.
yeah, all the families obviously have their whole back and forth and status and hierarchy and everything. And he got into it with a couple of them, and it was classic case of you or me or you, fisticuffs, shake hands after. Except he tried to take matey boy's eyes out with his fingers. But as he says, since he would have done it to me and all the rest of it, he says, but I paid my dues and I put it behind me and so on and so forth. But the point I'm getting
But
to
that's
is,
a primal part of life. And
yeah. But the beautiful thing is he's not hiding from it. He hasn't had some PR bloke come in and just dress up a story and make out that whatever.
No, it's real.
But the more you watch all of the stuff with Tyson Fury as the mainstream accept him, I find it interesting, because the stuff I'm watching is all of the YouTube kind of small independent kind of boxing fanzines and things.
Big up IFL.
Big up Coogan Cassius, and you get a real insight. He's sat in his caravan or in his front room on his sofa, and he's talking about being a parent. And you got him for 50 minutes, yeah? No nonsense, no adverts, no sell this, sell that, or, make sure that this demographic that's watching at this time gets the correct, it's just chat.
It's the message you're trying to convey.
And as he's discussing Tyson's belief and who Tyson is and why he thinks what he is, what he's also doing is shedding light on his ethical and moral values and codes. And once you put aside what we have all got in our culture, this kind of framework
in the book, Tyson talks about in his book, and how his dad sort of broke tradition in the way of buying an house and moving him into an house, because he wanted his kids to have like a stable. Although sticking with traditional gypsy traditions and with heritage and remembering all that, he was able to see the positives from both sides of the fence, and he wanted it. And Tyson's trying to do it as well, and he wants his kids to go to school, doesn't he? So that says a lot about him. He's not just being stuck in your ways, isn't it?
That's what I get from him when I watch these long form, just like this, just straight. It's like a podcast. What Coogan Cassius does is it's like a podcast. He's just the other side of the camera, fires some questions in, and you just get straight talk. And I found consistently with John, a lot of his principles and a lot of his.
Let me tell you one thing.
Yeah, and I tell you this: his morals is the building blocks that he's used are fucking good morals.
Yeah.
Honesty, truth, hard
Integrity.
work. Yeah.
Honour.
Yeah, community, together, team.
Family, yeah.
You know, like, trumps all of it, you know. I really find
And
that
a lot of
hard.
that's missing from modern.
But isn't it a double-edged sword how, like, Tyson Fury will become a media darling now because, you know, everybody's over the moon that we've got 2 British heavyweight champs and he's come through it all. But what I hope can come from it is because he does get that mainstream kind of AJ universal kind of appeal now,
Global.
that comes across, that we all start to go, actually, I used to think this about that kind of person, and actually this guy's defied it, and actually maybe it's not just because he's this, it's just maybe he's shed a light on something that I had a prior.
Everyone's got a story, haven't they?
formed
And we're all
opinion.
human beings. It's easy to judge, isn't it? It's easy to look at somebody and think, fucking hell.
It's part of survival, isn't it?
I've had a few episodes in my life where that's happened and it's been wrong, but then it's been right as well. It's tough, isn't it?
Well, there's your gut instinct, which
Yeah.
is true.
We're looking back. Looking back at it, yeah.
But it is a difficult thing because that judgment thing you talk of is like, you don't want to judge people, but it's almost like a survival tactic just to measure where you are to make sure you're all right.
It's calibration, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's calibration. You've got to have an element of it, but it's being able to control it, innit? Do you know what I mean? And it's like a survival instinct, innit? You know, you right, well, that's possibly going to happen over there, or these people like so. But it's being able to step aside and say, right, well, now I've realised this or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But I think most people are just locked into certain. I see it a lot with the Jeremy Corbyn thing. I don't want to go too much into politics and that, but you just see how people latch on to a popular opinion, an idea, and they run with it. And a lot of the time, it comes from like a moral ideology or something. But people latch onto it without really thinking about it. Yeah, they don't look into it, but they think that this is what.
Yeah, well, this is what everybody else is thinking, so it must hold some weight.
You know, and if you're going to go against that, then you have to be prepared to have a bit of backlash from people, family, friends, and then I think people just think, I can't really be arsed with that.
Well, it's our whole culture is
But look how
designed
it
differently now, isn't it?
changes.
Yeah, we're going through a transition at the minute from the old guard to the new via the way we consume our information. Because essentially that's what we are. We're forming these opinions and these judgments and these ideals based on the information you've got. And once upon a time, for the generation before us, I mean, we're 4 brothers who range across 13 years. You know, I was born at the beginning of the 80s. You, George, were born
94, mid-90s.
13 years later. Now, the generation before me, kind of white. If I'm kind of X generation, it's like they're still trading on, like, I don't know, 5 mainstream radio channels, 4 TV channels, 5 or 6 publication newspaper tabloids.
They've still got an AOL email address.
Yeah. And like there's a very kind of narrow injection of information, and pretty much chat tomorrow at work is going to be, did you see
that's
the
why life
episode
was
of
simple
so-and-so last
before.
night?
I think this plays a big part into mental health, to be honest with you, because although
Fucking hell, we've gone deep.
Yeah, real
Deep. This brandy, I'm just getting a fuzz off this brandy now as well.
you're going down the road of access to information and how, like, by generations people have already got their little avenues of how they source their information. Like your middle-aged people probably still read the Daily Mail.
Daily Mail.
And all this
Get
and
the
that.
Daily Mail.
If we still had fucking CFAX and teletext, they'd probably
It'd
still be on that.
using that.
Teletext.
People still
Because that's
try
what
and
you
use
know,
that.
innit? That's what you know, innit?
Yeah.
Whereas it's changing as we go down the line, and I think 50 years ago when you had fucking BBC and ITV and the Daily Mail, life was simple, wasn't it? Everybody sort of knew where they stood. It was all following mainstream trends, and nobody. Well, I say nobody. I mean. It was a lot more simple, wasn't it? Life was simple. Whereas now we've got all these different avenues and different sources of information, fake news, fucking social media. There's so much going on there, and nobody really fucking knows what they're doing with it. And I think that's a big part of mental health problems at the minute, to be honest with you.
And also, we're mirroring ourselves, aren't we? everybody's looking back at themselves. It's like we're projecting of the kind of the
photos,
the ideal version.
Photos every hour uploaded to the internet every hour.
Selfies.
It just becomes meaningless.
I think, don't we? I mean, this is a couple of years ago now. So again, for listeners, this is a guesswork podcast at this moment
This
in
is
time.
pissed up, Stone
Yeah,
Bramley.
pissed up. Brandy's kicking in. The
CBD.
The CBD is
Say what?
flowing.
First time as well. I'm not used to this.
I read a stat that was something like, I think we take more photographs in an hour that was taken in the whole of the 19th century.
I can believe that.
I can believe
easily.
that.
Fucking hell, some birds do that in them fucking on the road. I mean,
Well, just think of how many are taken before you upload that one. Them chicks are uploading. They're taking 20 before they upload.
But isn't it ironic how we start?
Final one.
We
I'd
kick
take
this,
at least 20.
you know,
isn't it? No, I'm not even. Gonna say
just to give put some kind of narrative on it for people who have managed to get this far in this podcast. This Chew the Chat, as we know by now, for the long-time listeners, 3 episodes, is kind of a fascination with childhood, with dynamics, with communication, with community, and how that affects us and how it sets trajectory. We kicked it off today because Four Brothers is like a little bit of a break from that. It's a little bit less kind of delving into somebody's unique story, and it's us guys getting back together and talking social, cultural, and all the rest of it. But we also have our stories, and we share a lot of things as well. But isn't it ironic we kicked this off today light-hearted with Tyson Fury boxing? We all love it. We've all trained boxing. You've boxed. You've won a bout. You've boxed. You've had a bout. We've trained. You know,
I lost a bout.
we've ended up we've ended up getting into mental health off talking off the back of Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Ironically, whose whole thing in the mental health thing, and what I love, the John Fury thing I watched just last night. I was watching it, and he talks about the phones. And he says, you know, when I'm traveling,
Well, that's it.
when I'm traveling, you know, he says, I'll do it myself. I want to find out. He said, I'll wind my window down, and I said, I'll ask somebody. I said, do you know, and I talk to people and I communicate because that's what we should do. Because I don't
from
think
Yorkshire, lad.
well,
Right.
yeah, apologies.
Sound like that guy. Who's the guy out the clip? The old heavyweight dude. I don't read the papers no more. I just look out window.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? I swam with sharks.
Yeah, what was his
Text
name?
that in if
Somebody
you got
Sykes,
that.
was it?
Google us, you know,
Somebody
send a
Sykes.
tweet or something, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it is something today.
We'll come back to that. Get it up on the Apple TV there. But what I loved was he's talking those principles again. He's saying, like, you know, and I don't know how much he's looked
Community,
into
innit?
the scientific fucking, you know, research of the impact of social media and
I
digital
doubt it
technology.
very much.
But it's in him, isn't it? It's what I'm saying.
It's looking at it
instinct.
through his eyes.
Real
I mean, I
life.
see it when I come back from Thailand, you know, having been away. You can see how it's affected how people...
For listeners then,
interact.
Harry, just form a bit of that story. You know, you came back from Thailand, you were there for 7 years.
Yeah.
So that's not just coming back from an holiday. You just, you know, that's a part of your
Long
life.
holiday.
Well, I was 22, wasn't I, when I went there?
22.
And I was... Right, here we go. Because I thought a lot about it. Obviously, I thought a lot about this. It's quite a big part of my life, isn't it?
Big part.
Formative years as well. You're 20s.
When I went to Thailand at 22 years old, Facebook wasn't really a thing. 2009. I mean, it was there. A few people had it.
MySpace at that
But
time,
MySpace, baby.
But
Which was
again,
basic,
who had
come on.
it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You knew a couple
yeah.
of people. Chris had it for the band, didn't he? For Live
Yes, so
Riot.
that's
Depends how good your
that
internet
sort of
connection
stuff.
was.
But no, it wasn't like it was just an accessory, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Your geeky mate had an idea about something and he said it to you and you were like, what the fuck?
Well, you
what?
knew that there was some fit bird on it, and so your mate knew, and he showed you and that, but you didn't. You weren't talking. I mean, it didn't even have anything.
She's
did it?
done what? She's poked you? What?
But then obviously
poking,
going
that
out
was the
there,
thing.
Thailand, to a whole different fucking country and culture and all that and everything, growing up out there from 22 to 29 and then coming back. And obviously by the time I'd come back, it was in full swing. I mean, people didn't talk really in the real world anymore. It's all done on the internet, do you know what I mean?
Code,
It's just
text.
Cyber world.
yeah, it was just a mad thing to come back and try and adapt to try and fit back in. And how does what you say? Because it dawned on me pretty quickly, especially now like dating and all that's moved online, Tinder and all that. How you've got a couple of pictures your little bio thing, and a couple of witty messages from the off to decide whether or not you and this person lives are gonna intertwine at any point down the line. Do you know what I mean? It's mad, George. And like it can just be a quick swipe left or right. And it's either...
But isn't it strange, all the while that's happening, Harry? All the while, right? You've just kind of framed that nicely. You went away for 7 years. At the beginning of that 7 years, there was MySpace and Facebook.
At the beginning of that 7 years, if you wanted to talk to a chick, you went up to her.
Yeah.
And you talked to her.
So then when you get back...
Or you knew a mate and you got a phone number.
That's a dying art these days.
You know what I mean? when you do that now, you mate, you're a weirdo.
Well, we'll get to that though. Let's not fast forward too quick. So when you get back after them 7 years, you're getting dropped back into this kind of pool of energy that you go, fuck, this has changed, this has moved. And the little bio, the manipulated picture and so on, that's a real kind of... you're seeing it kind of, like hindsight. We all talk about hindsight's a wonderful thing. That's why music or art that we look back at. And John Lennon did a famous interview with Rolling Stone in 1970, and it always clicked with me where he said he was kicking off with everybody about who was slagging off Yoko because she was that far out, right? And he was like, look, anything that's good has got to be dead for 200 years before we even fucking recognise that it was good. It's like we look back at things. And isn't it funny, even though you come back from Thailand and you're like, fucking hell, this is crazy. Like, we're already thinking, oh, the future's going to be this. We're going to be...
Well, you don't see the hair growing on your face.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
exactly.
You only see things...
Brandy, get the brandy out. That's brandy. They want the whiskey. I think the Jameson's is just on the side, George.
Yeah, grab us a Jameson's.
Talk to me, which one is it?
It's the littlest one behind the wine.
Use your eyes.
Firewater.
There you go.
No, red top.
Yeah, the little bottle, look.
That's the one.
And are you needing some lemonade?
But isn't it, you're recognising that in time, but as we're all going through this, right? We've all developed this text language and text rules and text communication. But while we're doing it, we're not aware that we've changed while we're doing that. We're already thinking about, soon we're going to be in the digital world. We'll have armoured suits where we've got all of this responsive technology. But all the while, we're changing now. Like, we've changed now.
Well, you see it. The most obvious thing that people can sort of reference this to is when you watch like...
That was ice. That was ice going in a cup from a reasonable height.
It's when you watch old fucking Kevin Keegan footy matches and you look at the footy kits and the hairdos. It's when you look back at music and you see how they were dressed in the 80s and that. That's the most obvious.
But you're not seeing it at the time,
sign of change that goes unnoticed as it happens. But that is happening with everything constantly, and it's only when you step away, for a decent amount of time as well, because there's always honeymoon periods. Like when you go on holiday, you just don't, you've got all the endorphins and excitement of, we're getting on the plane, we're going and it all happens within a time frame that's so quick that you don't really have a time to process any real details or information.
Appreciate it till it's over, do you?
And it was great, and now we're back at fucking work tomorrow and all that. Whereas when you've gone through that break point and you go past that, and that's when you start to notice all the subtle changes and differences of what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's when...
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, go on.
Have a vape.
Say what?
Someone else take over.
Yeah, go. I was going to say, have a vape, Harry. No, it's nice. It's nice, we've gone in heavy-handed here, haven't we? I mean... But we don't get to see each other as much as we'd like, and I think it's fair to say, I don't want to speak for everybody at this table, but I think it is fair to say that we're not talking outwardly at other people here. We're all in this. We're suffering consequences of this, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm constantly trying to deal with my shit, and by talking about it,
Me
I feel
too.
like I can
somehow connect some dots.
Yeah, at least.
Well, yeah,
at least.
I feel getting it out there allows you to sort of process it a little bit more.
Yeah, at least if somebody else can listen to it, it's not just a fucking figment of your imagination, is it?
No, because you're only ever thinking about it in your imagination. You're talking to yourself, 24/7. We're always thinking.
Everyone's battling, aren't they?
How many voices you have?
Well, this is it. Probably
But
10 or 11.
you say that, Joseph, and that's a poignant thing, because that internal dialogue that you have, where you just chatter to yourself.
I read a thing about it.
I don't think
I read a thing about it. I read an article. Don't quote me. I'm not a scientist. But I read an article about the monologue and the voice in your head, the conversation that you have. So when you're going to make a decision, or when you're going to, some I don't know if this is true or not, because who knows? Do you know what I mean? Only the person who's thinking in their head knows whether they can hear that voice or not. But apparently, some people don't.
I heard that as well.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So what is that?
I do, obviously. I've put it out there right now. I'm fucking talking to myself all the time.
Yeah, well,
constantly.
You were always told as a kid, aren't you? Talking to yourself is the first sign of madness, but come on.
Yeah, but
everybody,
not everybody,
I talk to myself all the time, man.
Learning that it's possible that there's people out there that don't have that conversation in their head. Like, I do it constantly, and talking from an employer's point of view, yeah, because obviously, employing people to do a task and then getting people to do that task. No, I'm not talking anyone specific here. I'm just talking generally.
Yeah.
And then trying to teach somebody a task that in my head is dead simple, but then when they're trying to do it, they can't do it. To me, that's like, and then I think about that monologue, because I think about how can I make this easier for that person, and then I think about how would I do it, and then that monologue, that story comes up, and that conversation I have with myself comes up. I think, right, well, I need to put this down here first, and then I've got to fucking put a nail in there, and then I've got to, do you know what I mean? And I have that conversation. I think, well, and then I say that out loud to the person that I'm trying to teach.
You're repeating what you've just said to yourself.
You know, some people get it and they fucking crack on great, and then some people just cannot fucking do it. And I'm not talking about fucking anything.
Some people can do that though, and then eventually figure it out.
Yeah, but like I think in my head, like, what is going through your head?
Well, you've just said that not everybody has like internal dialogue with themselves. So what is going on?
Yeah, well, is it happening or not? Are they thinking? Because
I often ask people, it's a little bit strange, but I'll often ask people, what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, I do that as well.
In time? And often enough, they look like they're deep in thought. Yeah. And the majority of the time, they say nothing.
And
I'm thinking, well,
you have to be, because...
Yeah, surely.
Yeah, you've got to be thinking something, because, like, in my head, it's going all the time. Right, constantly. So, you got to be thinking something, haven't you?
Well, like you say, maybe not everybody does have that.
But isn't that being a human? Like, every one of us is experiencing the same things on paper, right?
Effectively, yeah.
Because you've got the same anatomy as I have, and your heart has
made up of the same components, yeah.
And is that even on? It's not, is it?
Let me
power off.
Just a quick vape break there. But that is a dichotomy, isn't it? Is that in your head, this whole fucking lifeline span of like events and thoughts and processes.
Danke.
But that's happening behind everybody's eyes.
Yeah,
in fact, that
it is
behind you. Yeah, that sign, "Young Love, Young Heart."
Was it
fear? Yeah, that's from an Adrenochrome song called "The Skywalker," and also in that lyric is this a lunatic inside of me? Right? Have you ever looked into your own heart? What did you find there? Was it fear? Is this a lunatic inside of me?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm asking myself that every day.
Exactly.
There's definitely a lunatic
inside. But I think, okay, so this is a nice kind of link segue into who's watched The Joker recently.
Pretty recent for us. We've all seen this.
I think I was thinking about this recently, and I could just be fucking stoned and just tripping out.
Well, you are
thinking shit or what? But I was thinking about, because there's a lot of controversial opinions on that film, The Joker. It's either hated or loved. It's like Marmite, isn't it? And I was thinking about it, because obviously I've watched it a couple of times, and I love it.
How could you not like that film?
I love it.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't like it.
Could I pass us that brandy?
They're saying it's shit. Shit.
The people who've said that, does that say a little bit of something about themselves?
This is what I'm getting to, and I don't know. I'm
I'm
no scientist. I'm no fucking psychologist or nothing. But I think a lot.
I'll have a little top up, please.
And I was thinking, in my world, it's a good measure of people's fucking levels of empathy. So what I mean, like, if you enjoyed that film, I think it's because you sort of connected with him in a way.
His performance, Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, it was fantastic.
My favourite film was Gladiator of all time, right? and that guy is the Emperor. There's so many scenes in there that are just darkness.
Yeah.
Takes you dark.
Joe,
and he's
what,
young.
what do you know, Joe, about his actual physical body, Joaquin Phoenix? Because in the Joker, there's a clear twist in his body.
He's got some. I think it's his right shoulder. He's got some sort of.
And that's actually Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
It's not part.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
that's interesting. So
yeah.
you spotted that darkness in Gladiator. Was Gladiator year 2000? When was that made? It was a fucking long time ago.
That was back when you could.
Where's
It was on
Jamie?
video. It was on video.
Yeah, we need a young
Jamie, pull
Jamie,
that
don't
up.
we? Jamie,
buy
pull
it.
this up. Fuck.
You
Where's
could buy it
Jamie?
on video. That's how old that is.
Right. So you noticed that darkness in Joaquin Phoenix that long ago as well.
Yeah,
So
just,
I mean, Joseph, give us your little. You went to film school. You did the whole media thing, yeah.
Allegedly.
So but you know what you're looking at. You know, you enjoy it, don't you? You make stuff, you make music, you do bits. You
Films have always been a way for me to just.
drift.
Yeah, definitely escape. But yeah, going back to Joaquin Phoenix, his performance in that, I think his role in Walk the Line, Johnny Cash. I think Johnny Cash saw his performance, and off the back of that, approached him, and my mind's gone totally.
Well, he's got a scar on his lip, hasn't he? And I think that adds to his.
That's
fucking,
that whiskey and.
Well, I think that adds to his.
But what did you think to things like the grading, the colouring and stuff of the Joker, Joe? You know, like the whole
cinematography, it was dark. The whole thing.
Well, I think people was expecting a bit more of a superhero story, a bit more of a fucking.
Yeah, superhero story. But what I coming back to what you said before about love it, hate it. From what I can gather, that whole Me Too movement and this whole kind of PC fucking, you said it earlier when we were talking about stuff, Liam Gallagher or Tyson Fury, saying the truth. Like, in that film, to me, from what I've understood about trauma, about depression, about anxiety, the things that I'm trying to work out for my own journey is like, that's what happens. People go fucking mad when they lose, when they don't have love, when they don't have care, when they don't have connection, community, meaning.
That's by society, and that's because he's different. Society doesn't know how to.
But we're pushing back on the film. It's like that we're pushing back on the film because somehow, by showing it, because Todd Phillips, who's the director, he famously did the Hangover movies, right? Which, fuck me.
Brilliant.
I mean, I'm not really.
Fucking epic.
I can't say.
I was in. By the way, let me just say,
You were there at the time.
I was there.
I watched Hangover 2
In
set in
Thailand.
Bangkok in Phuket after a mental fucking weekend, and it was
I bet it
brilliant.
was epic, yeah.
It was
You felt like you were in it.
Yeah. Well, it did.
Yeah,
It felt
100%.
like
I bet.
because that mental kind of night was what we used to live for, wasn't it? That just random
chaos,
fucking
yeah.
chaos.
Before you know it, you've got a monkey
not
in the
knowing
car.
and being 3 days down the line. And
chicken.
that.
We'll get to that, Mum.
Yeah, we've got a few Thailand stories. It's a bit early though.
To
for that,
be out there,
definitely.
to be out there when they brought that out, because for me, like being so far away from everything that, but then that film sort of reconnected me back. That's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Hangover 2 reconnected me back to them.
But there you go then. So that jump from the Hangover movies for Todd Phillips, and I mean, I don't know a lot about Todd Phillips. I know the Hangover films were good. I know they got a bit of pushback for number 2 and 3, but I thought they were all pretty good movies. The first one obviously set a tone, but the jump, I don't know what he's done in between them. You might know more than me, Joe. I don't know, but
No, I don't.
that is a fucking dramatic kind of, because even, you know, certain directors have a certain style. Wes Anderson or people like that, they've got a style, like the cinematographers they use, the whole kind of aesthetic that you see, the edits. The Joker to me was like, it's like The Wall, Pink Floyd or something. It was like Jacob's Ladder or something.
Well, I thought it was very similar to like Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises in terms of its dark
feel,
grit,
the energy.
Yeah, and you know, it's fucking. I tell you what, when I watched, which one is it with Bane? Dark Knight Rises, isn't it? I went and watched that in the cinema in Thailand, and I was blown away. I fucking stood up at the end and I give it a standing ovation.
You felt like Batman, didn't you?
Oh, the music.
Honestly, I couldn't believe it. It was just brilliant. It was just brilliant. Just dark. You know, when he gets beat up by Bane in that fucking thing.
The darkness is your eyes.
Yeah.
What were some of the standout scenes for you then in the Joker?
In the Joker, there was quite a few humorous scenes. But there was one real prominent scene. I think it was where his employer had pulled him in and was giving him a bit of a bollocking. And just the smile that he gave
When he says everybody thinks you're a fucking weirdo, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, and there's just a menace in his eyes. I feel like only Joaquin Phoenix could pull that off. Because I thought, although it had the darkness of the Christopher Nolan films, it was a little bit more minimalistic. There was not a lot of special effects or anything like that.
Yeah.
And to see his transition to go from this guy who's just losing at life.
But you can see how it was always there. You can't.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who produced a video that we did once upon a time in a music thing I did, right? Really knowledgeable lad about film and stuff. And I had a chat with him the other day about the Joker because we caught up on the phone about some bits, and he said to me, he pointed something out that was really quite poignant, I think, now I understand what he's saying, which was, he says in the beginning of the film, when you see him going home, he's always going up the stairs. And
that scene where he comes down, where he's dancing, by the way, where he's embraced.
He's in his suit.
He's totally embraced who he is.
And he's just like,
I think that's the change. I think
he's just murdered Matey at that point, and didn't he just stab Matey?
He was on the way to the show.
I think he's done the subway shootings at that point.
But he was on the way to De Niro.
That's right, but his mate came round, didn't he? So he'd done the subway.
Yeah, that's right. And he'd let the
this is
little dwarf guy
fucking
off.
spoiler city, by the way.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
I will say something in the intro about this. So
apologies.
if you've got this far, you've had the intro. So
it's been a while now, though, eh?
Yeah, you'd like to think, but I only watched it on Sunday.
Yeah.
I waited for it to come up on Amazon.
So it's fresh.
He's got little mate, the little dwarf guy,
the English lad Gary in it.
I think so.
Wait, doesn't. We're giving it all away.
Yeah, we are. But fuck it, you're here now.
You put the spoilers in on you. So
that menacing scene. When they come round, because Matey Boy gives him the gun,
and he bounces that guy's head off the wall 3 or 4 times.
5 times.
I sat up at that point.
Yeah, that was.
He starts it with stabbing him in the throat. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
and the little dwarf guy goes to leave, and he gives him a little judder. And he's like,
you can't reach the fucking lock.
And then he shuts. He can't reach the lock. That was brilliant.
It's okay, Gary. You can go. Hurt you. You were the only one who was nice to me. Some performance, and even as it starts to unravel about his mum. So again, not necessarily viscerally, graphically dark or violent, but like when he finds out the adoption thing with his mum, like, and then he puts,
and then that switch gets flicked.
But the scene where he rises at the end. Where he's laid out. I'm trying not to give too much away, but for those that have seen it,
it's been out long enough.
We're deep.
But that scene, wow.
There's the scene. Well, we're not gonna. I don't want to.
I think highlights the neglect of society, doesn't it?
I think it reflects society massively,
and then see what happens.
The whole kind of clown thing, obviously, it kind of anthropomorphizes. Can I say that after fucking the third branding? Anthropomorphizes that. The feeling of like, classic woo kind of revolution talk is that people stand up and, if enough people all stand up, for instance, the fucking bin men want to take your bins every 2 weeks now, instead of every other week or every week. So,
that's a bastard, by the way.
That's the same thing.
So if everybody in the street just said, no, right, we're not having that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing.
But that's what they point out. They've kind of put you down that kind of path of thinking by the clowns, by the whole of society.
Because he thinks that, so I think that, and that's how it's all controlled. Because if people did say that, then it would change. If everybody says no,
together, unified.
If everybody on that same street turned around and said no, this is how it's going to be. Then that's how it would be.
Exactly.
But. And this is something else I noticed when I came back to this country as well. I saw a video online, and I don't know who or what or where, but it was a dude on Lincoln High Street, and he's getting fucking his head smashed in. I think.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he nearly died. But what I noticed in the video.
What is this, like CCTV footage?
CCTV, and it was on the outside fucking charcoal grill, but on the other side, down there, and he's getting stomped in. And a load of foreigners, they were all. I think they were like Myanmar. I don't know. Fuck knows. Doesn't matter.
Mind what?
I don't. From Myanmar, Burma, from that way. I can't remember. I don't know. It doesn't matter. What matters is people were driving and walking past like nothing was happening. So what I mean,
diminished responsibility.
And it's that attitude of It's not my problem. Somebody else will sort it out. You know, somebody else will fucking do
We're
it.
about to open a fucking
and
rabbit
you could just
hole
see it
here.
happening. You could see it happening. I followed that story for a little bit, and you know, there was the lad that was getting beat up got seriously fucked up.
That's some serious trauma. But it's, you again, kind of, we are segueing, but we're still kind of on the lineage of the Joker because that's what they're depicting. And some of the stuff that I've read, one of the fascinating things about that diminished responsibility, there was a simple study done. I don't know who by what. I'll try and find it, and if I can link it in the notes, I will. But probably not because I'm Brandy's in now. Guesswork. Okay. But I did read something that talked about diminished responsibility, and the basic thing I remember is that if you're walking down the street, right, and someone was being attacked across the road, and it was just you on the street, you'd be
more inclined.
The likelihood that you're going to act is really, really high, right?
If it was
And you're
just
probably
you,
gonna
did you
do
say?
something.
Sorry, say that again.
If it was just you on the street,
The more people around, the less likely you are.
As soon as
someone else will sort it out.
Yeah.
I think when there's like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but 3 or 4 people, it's likely that someone will do something and you will join in and you will work as a team and you will kind of coordinate yourselves. And I can't remember what the number was, but it was a low number
Where nobody does nothing.
where everybody leaves it.
Yeah.
There's a tipping point where it's it becomes a diminished responsibility because they're not doing anything. He's not doing anything.
Well, there's 10 people's walked past them already and nobody
Yeah.
else is bothered, so why should
But
I?
at what point do you think then? So, let's say if there's less people on the street, there's a higher chance that somebody's gonna step in. But let's say there's more than one person doing the attacking.
Right.
Do you reckon?
I was in a situation once in town.
Similar, yeah.
Yeah, when I was about 15, and a load of Middle Eastern immigrants, and it ended up. I can't remember exactly.
I don't actually think I've ever heard this story from you, so this is.
This is
someone else.
This is an exclusive. Welcome, Mum. Welcome, Dad.
Different versions, bro.
Well, basically, long story short, we ended up into a bit of a ruckus with some foreign guys, some immigrants, and it was back in. And we're going back to like.
It was back when foreign was cool. You know what I mean?
No, it wasn't.
No.
It was not. It was. I'm talking like it was when they first. It was early 2000s when they first started really influxing into Lincoln, and we used to get into scraps for him. But anyway, there's this big do happen. I can't remember what the point of this story was.
No, don't mind.
Diminished responsibility, numbers.
Responsibility, that's the one.
Yeah,
Right? So anyway, it started out in the waterside.
Chew the
Anyone
Chat
who's
podcast.
from Lincoln who's listening, probably most people, the waterside and the bridge going over towards the little market area and that, you got a little pigeon bit there. So that's where it all started, and it was waterside, and this big fucking fight happened anyway. But by the time it all finished and calmed down, there was probably a good 200-300 people stood around, you know, going
Is this
over the bridge.
before mobile phones?
Yeah. This was before
So
phones.
people aren't like
No, nobody's
uploading
filming
it.
it. This was just a Saturday afternoon in town, and what would happen? There was a gang of lads that we didn't know, but we knew them, but they weren't our mates. Do you know what I mean? There used to be little pockets, everyone
little
from different
cliques, little
estates.
cliques.
Or little,
Back when
little
people used to be
areas.
outside, by the way.
People used to mooch about, and if you
Good
saw
time
people,
on a
it's because you saw
Saturday.
them. Yeah, it's because you bumped into them. So I mean, you'd
Dudes
be
from
walking
different
about.
schools and all that, little pockets.
Yeah. So we're walking about anyway, and then we're in the waterside, and this lad comes running. I was like, quick! Our mate's getting fucking jumped and that by loads of foreigners. And like, we all had our own little groups from different estates, different parts of town, and if we come across each other, it was a bit tense and that. But as soon as these foreigners started coming in, you know, you started to see unity forming between people. So, you know, this one group of lads had been attacked by these foreigners or whatever was going on, and somebody coming over to tell us about it. So we all went running out, and we run outside the waterside and fucking just dived into this thing. But by the time it all sort of come about to the end, I was like on my own. And there was hundreds of people like stood all around where they put the ice rink and that outside Wilco's and that. That was full, all outside the waterside. And by this point we'd gone over the bridge and we'd gone down the road a little bit towards the fucking Linda Mill, is it?
Yeah.
We'd gone down towards there, and it was just madness. Police came straight over to me.
That's like mob mentality you're talking about there.
Well, no, because they was just watching. Everybody was just watching. By the time it all came to an end, it was just me on my own. Everybody else who I was with had been, wiped out one way or another, whatever had happened, but by the time it had come to an end, it was just me, and there was probably 5 or 6 of these foreign lads, and they all had hold of me, and they were pulling me about, and like in one of them bushes, there's like little bushes, isn't there, down the river?
Yeah.
Like little concrete, like brick fucking things with bushes in. They had me like in one of them, had all the thorns in my face and that.
And everybody's kind of civilians.
Everyone's just
scary,
watching
though.
this. Everyone's just
That would
watching.
be scary. That's chaos to the average person. Do you know what I mean?
To me, it was
in the heat of the moment.
I didn't
a lot of
even
people don't
know
what
that
to
these
do.
Saturday
people
afternoon,
were
you
there.
just
I didn't even know that anyone was there. I was so involved in what was going on
in the moment.
From the moment it started to the moment it stopped, I was so involved in what was going on. I didn't even notice who was there. But it stopped because the police came. The police came from the main road there, walking down and that. And bearing in mind, there's 5 or 6 fucking lads all over me, pulling me about, ripping me jacket off me and that. And he pushed his way through him.
5 or 6 lads.
They were ripping them off. God damn.
All the spectators were watching.
I felt like a star.
This copper pushed his way through him, and he came straight up to me, and he started telling me how I was in the wrong and that, and he was going to arrest me and that. And I said to him in front of everyone, I said, "Are you fucking joking me? You've just come and pulled these guys off of me, and now you're telling me that I'm the one."
Yeah, you're the one that's being
and all these
questioned.
phone lads are walking off. They're all walking off the way that the police had come, and he come right up to me, and I went right up to him as well. And I wasn't
Were
having
you
any of
wearing
it.
Stone Island?
No, not at this point.
Burberry.
I can't remember what I was wearing. I was wearing a park jacket, I think, because I think it saved me during the escapade. One of them had a screwdriver.
Well, is he questioning you? Is he? But is he approached the situation thinking, right?
On, so.
There's one chap here, and there's 4 or 5.
What interests me?
No, it's because they were
a group.
They were asylum seekers. So obviously, and what I didn't realise at the time, for me, they're foreigners. They're just fucking foreigners. What they're doing here, do you know what I mean?
Calendar News had already told you earlier that
What I didn't
day.
realise at the time, they're asylum seekers. They're from fucking war-torn countries.
Coming here to take the piss. That's what the news would tell us.
That's what the news.
The news would tell you. Look at the people are coming here to take the
Years
piss.
later, you
dumb
go
at
up a
this
bit, and
point.
I've lived
Yeah,
in a foreign
of course.
country. I've been the immigrant. Do you know what I mean? I've been not the asylum seeker. I've never sought asylum like that, but I've been an immigrant. I've been a fucking foreigner.
You've been looking for somewhere to rent,
I've been
though,
the
haven't you?
minority.
Same thing.
7 years. Do you know what I mean? So I understand. I've had a perspective of viewing things from the minority's point of view.
You embraced it as well, didn't you? Because you lived amongst the Thais. You didn't live in on
That's a
the
good
outskirts
point,
of
Joe,
a resort or anywhere like that.
No,
you lived on the dark side, where you lived was literally
It's
called
literally
the dark
called
side,
the dark side.
where there's no
Dark
electricity.
Yeah, well,
Soy count.
this is what I mean about stages.
That's
I
not
said
standard.
that I touched on earlier about honeymoon periods and that, and this is the thing about life, maturity. That's how maturity happens, isn't it? Is through experience and looking back at things, and that's the same thing living out there. The reason I lived with the Thais is because after so long, you start to see through all the fucking, like, I was hanging around with tourists for a bit, first couple of years. You'd meet a gang of lads and that. I was out there for a few weeks.
Comfort.
And it was buzzing because I lived there. I knew all the shit. I knew all the places. I knew all the people. And I was like fucking.
I know where it's at, mate.
Like, I'd meet a gang of fucking lads from back home and that. And, I was a superstar to them.
Yeah.
Because I knew all the shit. And I could get them
You're
fucking
exposing them
a bit
to-
of time. That
and you're
shit.
buzzing on it.
Magic,
Yeah. But what happened was, like, you'd start making friends with people and that, and then before you know it, they're gone. Next person. And what I noticed was you'd end up, it was the same thing. You'd be having the same conversation over and over again.
Before we digress too far, though,
Before.
right?
Yeah, and it just fucking
You just took us.
away from that.
You just took us on a pretty cool journey there, Harry, with that whole depiction of what was going on in the town centre with that kind of ruckus, and there's a whole thing happening, which I want to pull back for listeners, because isn't it strange that we kind of, I don't know if I'm correct in stating this, but I feel like we've put a lot of onus on the idea of our population, our culture at the minute of we get our phones out, we're fucking filming everything, which we are, right? You go to gigs and it's fucking white lights everywhere. Everyone's taking a photograph of themselves at the gig so they can pop it out into the digi world to say, look where I am, I'm at the gig, instead of just
Embracing
being
it,
at the
being
gig.
there, just being
But
there.
isn't it interesting in that story that you just said there, and I know you mentioned, Joe, and it's right, that it's fucking, whoa, what the fuck's going on here? This is mental on a Saturday afternoon. But everyone stops and they're watching. You've probably done it yourselves. You're driving down the street. There's a fucking crazy shit's happened up the road, and you're like, "Whoa!"
Well, I was working
I
in
remember,
town. I was working in
Would-
town.
Horrible
but
experience.
before we
And I'll
jump
tell you
on,
what, you'd be surprised how much fucking drama is going off in middle Lincoln Town Centre at 7 o'clock in the
I
morning.
remember watching an awful fight in McDonald's, about 15 years old, with a couple of mates on a Friday, Saturday night, 9:30, 10 o'clock.
so you boys are just having your milkshakes and chilling, and then some
Literally.
violence breaks out.
We'll say munchies. We'll call it munchies.
Okay.
Anyway, this chap who ended up,
Chap. Lovely fella.
he was fighting with a homeless chap inside McDonald's, to the point where there was blood.
Describe the dude. Who's the dude who's fighting with homeless
So
dude?
I don't really want to say names, but this chap went on to
Young
be
Paul, is it?
convicted of a murder. There was a murder. You remember the chap who got?
Do we all know him?
Well, you were out of the country at this time, but
was I only-
somebody got murdered near Waitrose years ago. This is probably
Oh,
5 years ago.
No, longer than that.
I do know
Yeah,
the
a lot
name,
longer
but I
than
won't say
that.
that. Maybe, yeah, it probably is. Anyway, this was probably a few years before this murder happened. Anyway, 2-3 years. This homeless chap, we're just sat there drinking the milkshakes, chatting, and all of a sudden, this kerfuffle's happening inside McDonald's, right in the main aisle, relatively quiet. And this lad's with a couple of his mates, and he's absolutely just
Absolutely kerfuffling him.
He's laying into this homeless dude. It's evident that he's, this guy's
mate,
got
I cannot
nothing to show.
Bear that shit.
Nothing to show.
I cannot bear that shit.
It's
People
brilliant.
It's
thinking they're
absolute-
fucking hard by picking on homeless people. I tell you what,
It was awful.
try that shit. Oh. Go on, carry on.
It's. I don't know, but it was pretty funny. They said this homeless dude ended up squaring himself up, charged up to the counter at
Dusted
McDonald's.
himself off and
Literally.
rolled up his sleeves.
He charged over to the counter and he like shimmied across it, like a little leap, and slid on his bum across the
Little
counter.
leap and
Jazz
glide.
hands. He had some jazz hands.
And he found it, picked up a big broom, and when I say a big broom, the head on this broom was big.
And he just
It was
swept
big.
up.
And with that, he come back down the aisle
Clean
thinking,
sweep,
and he was like, right then, But unfortunately, things escalated. He took a bit more of a beating,
Didn't he?
and at this point, it ended up outside, and I disappeared.
Those
So
flash
what
ones that
happened then?
happens.
So what was the general
Nothing.
public
I tell you.
situation going on? How many
Nothing.
people were spectating?
There was probably about. This is the Cornhill McDonald's. There's probably about.
Well, that's where I was working, and I've seen
20
a lot of shit going on.
20,
I've had to
30
fucking
people.
get on
McDonald's
with it.
is a hive.
There's about 20, 30 people. There's obviously maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 staff on.
Everywhere's got
And
a McDonald's.
everybody
It's a
pretty
hive.
much froze. Obviously, I'm thinking at this point, shit, is this going to escalate? Am I going to have to, is this going to come our way?
let's get that long job out.
But, yeah, the piston. But no, it's, there's probably about 50 people in there, but nobody wants to intervene because you're having to step into a big pair of shoes in a
but
situation like
the
that.
problem as well is, you get done, don't you? You get done for everything in this country.
Yeah, you can't just deal with that situation and that situation be dealt with. Then you got
It's
backlash.
a primal part of fucking being a human being is violence, whether we like it or not. It is the fucking primal part
Primal instinct.
of being a fucking animal, innit? But we've tried to
that's why that kicks in situations like that.
What's the Leonardo DiCaprio film?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Shutter Island, and there's that general in the car in the old army jeep, and he's like, "All there is violence. But the question is, will your violence conquer my violence?"
Well, that is the question. And that is. And we've tried to get rid of that out of fucking modern
We're
life.
suppressed, aren't
But
we?
at the end of the day,
We're
we're animals,
suppressed.
aren't we? And that comes into it. And you know what I
we
mean?
feel
And what happens when that situation comes about and somebody...
Allow that, bro.
Because that does happen. You got a little homeless dude who's fucking... not a fucking show for anyone. is
Here
it?
you are then.
Well,
So here's a
and
full
then you got
justice.
some
But in
pissed
the
up
wrong
dude
place
who's
at
out
the
on
wrong
that
time,
house,
do you know what I
thinks that
mean?
he's
You've
a
got this
fucking
young
boy,
lad
wants to show
point to
off.
prove.
Yeah,
The issue isn't the homeless
with a
man
bunch
being
of
in the wrong
mates
place at the
together.
wrong time. It's
And
the-
in this chat, like I say, this dude later went on to kill somebody and was convicted for it.
So how about taking this full circle then? So again, for the Tudor Chat listeners, we kicked off with getting into a
Are they
boxing
still there?
match. Yeah. Yeah. I know there's some hardcore in Australia.
no,
There's some hardcore in Australia,
no.
Minnesota, Illinois. Those are hardcore people.
Shout out to the
Big up
Australians,
everybody
yes,
listening.
Yeah.
Everybody
No,
listening.
thanks for bearing with us.
Yeah,
But we go
yeah.
full circle because you talk about kind of violence. And it sounds harsh to people who are just getting back from, clubs with their kids today and about to have a nice meal. But we go back to like heavyweight boxing,
If you've ever
MMA,
watched any David Attenborough,
UFC or whatever, yeah.
understand
But we make that ceremonial violence kind of the most fucking, it's the edge of your seat kind of, it's the instinctual.
well, look back to the beginning of the time.
That's our output
Roman
now,
times,
isn't it?
gladiators. Watching two people fight has always been a big puller of attention, because
Fucking
it is,
and fighting.
at the end of the day, it's the ultimate test of power. And take away all the fucking cars and fucking
Granted,
TVs and all these things we've created in the natural world.
When the apocalypse hits and you've got the water.
in the natural world,
Who's coming to get me?
it's down to fucking violence, doesn't it?
But then, right then, so there's two people fighting. In order to deal with that situation properly, you have to step into that world.
Yeah,
And
you have to have an element of violence about it.
Exactly.
Jordan Peterson said it. Jordan Peterson said it well.
Without stepping into that situation.
Jordan Peterson said it. A good man is not a fucking harmless man. A good man is a very, very violent man
It's
who
the same.
has it under voluntary control.
Don't
Try and get that across on GMTV, right?
That basically saying that you've got the
Not
fucking
anything else
access
with
to
that,
power,
didn't you?
but you don't have to use it if you don't fucking need to. And that's something that's missing from this world, because people just fucking abuse
you grab
power.
the
people
George.
mistake kindness for weakness.
Yeah. And just because I'm not going to say that.
Go on.
Nah, because
Get it on record, Harry.
I'm already on side.
Yeah, but that's an interesting point though, because violence is in our DNA, right? And this is what I said about coming
Yeah.
full circle to Tyson Fury.
Thank you
Is
for
that is that we've managed to make violence become a for want of a better explanation, a
Well,
sport.
just think,
right?
in life,
It's still an
the
output.
most worst thing in the world.
I think if you understand
in
violence,
sport-
you don't want violence.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be anywhere
Great
near
point,
it.
Joseph.
You
'cause
don't want to be anywhere near it. It's savage.
my little boys, right, are in the house now. Your nephews, yeah, you
Yeah.
obviously know. And us guys, we've all trained together. Function First, Matt Foss.
Yeah, big up.
Yeah, big shout to Matt, who was on the
Big
first
shout out to
episode.
Function First.
He trained all of us. We trained at his gym together, which is a beautiful thing. My boys now train. They're your nephews. I put those boys in there because you just said it. You hit the nail on the head. And for people listening, for lads who are listening, people we've grown up with, people who are fucking in Queensland or wherever, yeah, there is this thing built into us where the geezer stares that Mike Skinner called it. Right?
Yeah, you've got to
The
prove
geezer
that you're
scares.
not a pussy.
You've got to somehow, you go into a new environment. You've got to somehow have some
But as
kind
soon
of
as you
dominance or
realise
relevance.
You have to assert
what it
yourself.
actually means.
But this is what Joseph was pointing out. So I'm pointing out to my kids: once you go to you go to some boxing sessions or kickboxing or jiu-jitsu or whatever, fill in the blank, yeah, you will learn that getting punched in the ear or in the chin or in the
your
mouth
arm
or in the
snapped
nose,
off.
and you get the ringing of the ears and you get the fucking lights and you get the
stars.
falls. All of a
Seeing
sudden, you
stars.
start to understand that violence is fucking not very nice,
it's not
like you
pleasant,
just
yeah.
said. And also, it gives
Even if you win, it's not
like a
pleasant.
double entendre because once you, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's kids out there who've got stuff to get out and, but if you are lucky enough to be surrounded by love and you learn about the human body, physicality, strength, control, and you go to a martial arts club, which is what Matt in the first episode talks about, the whole philosophy of like,
Self-discipline as well.
yeah,
isn't it?
discipline. If you know how to look after yourself as a kid, but you know how to love, that's the perfect balance because you
You
understand
need
that
to
if
be able
this
to
goes
access
wrong,
everything.
look at it. Look on a Saturday night, right?
no,
Most
I
of the
agree,
kids who
I
are
agree.
starting fights on a Saturday night, right?
Yeah,
Never been to a fucking thing in their lives. They're
No.
just getting
That's
the
what-
And they can't
those
fight.
people
So
who
we need to
think
find
they're
the
ours,
chances. We
they're
really
like,
need
I've
to
got
point
no
out.
idea.
And what are the
how to
chances?
fight.
The
What are the
majority
chances
can't
of like
fight.
a bit of love?
Exactly.
You know.
But everyone wants to fight, but then heads are bouncing off of the fucking concrete. And you know this because you know how to throw a right hand, yeah? You know you're going to fucking set yourself, you're going to sit on it. And if it lands, like someone's outside of a nightclub on a Saturday night, there's tarmac.
Intoxicated.
the brilliant thing of jiu-jitsu is because
And if that guy's an
you start
arsehole who
looking
knows
at
how to
that
throw
and you
that as well.
realise you can put an end to it without anybody drawing blood, without any fucking.
But they might not draw a breath again.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
well,
They might return
They
in a
will,
different
'cause
way.
You can just fucking.
It's
yeah,
die,
that's
man.
obviously a
You're
risk.
going
but
to sleep.
people die.
But I think we've gone I keep saying full circle, but like whether we've gone from Tyson Fury to the Joker to this kind of whole primal DNA, violence, instinct, depression, anxiety, what are the other people doing, diminished responsibility, hive mentality. It's all kind of, we're in a time now where social media, we're all inputting our data into the fucking network of the mirror.
And they're analysing
into your profile.
The network mirror.
I was looking at that
Profile.
10 years ago.
What?
How you could predict somebody's
Thank you, Jim.
movements based on their social media. I was looking at that shit years ago.
They say now, don't they? Everybody before job
But think
interviews,
about what
whatever,
they've got
everybody's
now.
vetted via
It's not
social
just
media.
that, the algorithms that are being run, mate, they know what you're going to do before you do.
Yeah.
So that's interesting you say that, right? Because now before we go off down that tangent, which is marketing, kind of Cambridge Analytic kind of area.
yeah, we see that.
So before we get there, we're fucking deep in that.
name drop.
Anybody who's still with us at this point, fucking take your hat off.
Yeah.
Grab a fucking tumbler.
Yeah.
Fill it
If
with
you want a
ice
hug,
and
I'll give you a
Yeah,
hug.
do. Grab a
I'm giving out
tumbler,
hugs.
get some really good CBD, have a brandy,
THC.
and hang in there. Get a crash helmet,
Or
maybe
MD.
some knee pads.
Well, get a cup of tea on.
Yeah, or just
Anything,
chill
yeah,
out.
a glass of water.
And if you're driving to work and it's 6
Or
o'clock
just
on a
fast
Monday
forward
morning,
30 seconds.
Or skip back 30 seconds.
that might have just been long enough for me to lose my thread there.
Potentially.
But
Potentially.
no, point I was going to try and make is that this conversation flying off before we go down the Google Analytic thing is like the violence, the community, the social media. We're inputting our data. We are taking photos of ourselves, and out of the 7 photos we've took, we're going to pick number 4 because that's where I look the best. Right, number 4. So that's a process. Then after you've chosen that photo, now we've got to go into the second part of the process, which is let's make it look better. Right, so let's get rid
I
of
always
that.
look good on the first photo.
Filters on
Yeah, and then stage 3. Now you eject it into the ether with a little tagline.
Yeah, you've got to get a nice quote.
You've got to get a tagline. You've got to get on Google. You've got to start looking at fucking
You've got to
coal.
find out what's popular right now.
Right.
What's popular.
This is
what
it.
people
And it's,
into.
it's evolving day by day.
But think about this process. Just stick with me, step by step. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what you see in a photo, because you're seeing 1,000 as you scroll down, you're just seeing 1,000.
Yeah.
Right. This
Unlimited.
process. We talked about it earlier. What's going on behind your eyes? What's going on behind mine? The amount of time it takes for a selfie. Anybody who's taking a selfie properly, the amount of time it takes. That's like I say, you took however many photos, which took however long, and however much brain
10 to
capacity.
20.
Then you got to pick one.
ping,
Then you got to make that better. Then you've got to, like you say,
Gotta
Harry, you've
pick
got
that
you,
filter.
you've got to pick. You've got to pick the right line now.
But then it all comes down to one crucial thing. How many likes does it
right.
get?
That's my next stage, Harry.
go on,
Right.
go on,
So.
go on.
And you could have fucking destroyed yourself.
So you get through the stage of what am I going to say to kind of
And how
solidify
long it
this
takes
image, right? Now you put it out there. Now the anxiety kicks in.
Yeah, that thing, once you've uploaded it, that press.
Did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Am I up my own arse? No, I'm just another person like everybody else.
Does that read okay?
Yeah. And then the first like, then you get the bing, bing.
I hope Seven sees it.
And then you realise the first 10 likes are always the same fuckers who always like the fucking
Yeah,
thing.
your mum's best mate and fucking your auntie and that.
Oh, yeah, I like my own. I like my own posts. I never post. Fuck that. I
I'm
try
gonna
and
be
stay
the
away from
first
that
to-
shit.
But I think we're peaking on the mics there, so we might have to just give it a fist.
Yeah.
Fist it, yeah?
Things
Yeah,
we're getting rowdy. Things are getting rowdy.
But isn't that strange? Because then that's that first process I just kind of talked out, not necessarily for you lads in the room, but people at home or people who've got sisters or, family members or friends.
I mean, look at the female.
You see the whole kind of, how many girls bless these girls and this
Yeah,
is,
bless them.
Yeah.
but the same, they got the same picture from the side on the good side with the same filter and this, and
Well,
like
this
there's
is where the
1,000 of them
catfish thing
pictures.
comes from, isn't it?
With
There's
the
a lot of
fucking
deception in
massive
there.
lips, yeah.
Oh, mate,
There's
deception.
a lot of people that
fucking
can
hell.
But not
look
decept-
like
Yeah, but
themselves.
again, this
We're
is
not,
a massive
we're not.
contributor
It's not
to
the
mental
deceptor
health.
of the people, is it? You're
It's
just-
a massive.
It's
I've been on a lot
one
of
of the
fucking
biggest.
dates with a lot
One
of
of the
chicks who
biggest.
don't look like their pictures, bruv.
Hey, listen,
saying,
we're
bruv.
talking a bit like that, bro, yeah?
But yeah, well, I had to. 'Cause I've got to get that shit to the youth,
Yeah,
haven't I?
allow that, yeah?
You've got to get that shit to the youth.
Talking rough cuts.
But that's kind of the
But
point
that's
we're
adding to
making,
the thing,
Harry.
right? I went on this date with this one chick, right, and she looked banging. Her pictures.
Talk to me, bro.
I'm talking. Right? Her pictures were amazing. She looked amazing, right? I got chatting to her. Went to meet
What
her.
were you saying? Yeah, tell me what you were
But does that say?
That's amazing,
Hey,
bro.
right. Hang on a minute. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does is that saying more about her or you at this point?
Well,
because you're
we'll get
going
to that.
you're following up with this girl because she looks.
That's deep.
I'm not, because she looks right. We was chatting to her and that. I was chatting to her and she was pretty, and I thought, yeah, she's cool. I'm not the sort of
And
person
you
who's just going to
thought,
go
yeah.
and go on a date with a chick just because she looks good. If that was the case, I'd be on all sorts, but I'm not. Do you know what I mean? Like, she seemed all right.
Not yet.
Right? So, yeah, I went to
Are
meet
you
her.
reading what she says, or are you just looking at her what she looks like?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Because what else have you got when you're swiping through a fucking digital
As you
fucking
mentioned
thing?
earlier, yeah.
Yeah. What else have you got? Do you know what I mean?
It's like a K's
and you
catalogue
can-
when I was a
anyone can
kid.
be anyone they want. There's that old Savage Garden song, isn't there? You know what I mean?
Who?
listen to
Sorry?
Savage Garden?
Yeah, whoa.
Savage Garden.
Big shout to Savage Garden. At least there's someone in Lincoln listening to you.
But anyway, my point is, right, you can be whatever you want, can't you? Do you know what I mean?
You can.
Is that a
put
lyric?
filters on your pictures, you can
I
type
think it
whatever
is.
you want, whatever sounds good, and it's out there, right? So that's what
Inspirational.
happened. So I went out there, went to meet this chick, and as soon as I fucking pulled down the street, I see it, and I was like, oh, she didn't
God.
look like her pictures, right? But I carried it on. I could have turned around.
You were
I
a
could have fucking
gentleman.
drove off.
You were an absolute gentleman.
How long did it take you to travel there? Come on. It's too
thought,
long to
bless
go
her.
home, wasn't it? You thought, fuck it.
You thought, I'm going to put one in for the team here. You know what I'm saying?
I've come all this way. I've come all this way.
Right, anyway. That's it then, isn't it?
No, but the point being is, I think there's two sides to it. I think we've got those of us that are, well, no, in fact, it's all of us, because it is a combined movement. It's like we're projecting ourselves. So everybody, every single, whether it's a young girl who's trying to get some kind of affirmation, or whether it's us as young men trying to weave our way into some kind of new unknown part of our life, we're all kind of projecting images of ourselves, the people who are, because a lot of people are pretty cool and aren't even bothering with social media. Let's give them a shout, because it's, you know, they're not bothering with it because they're busy living. Because in the end, that's what we're doing, isn't it? We're just projecting ourselves in there, and then we're trying to work out, as you said at the start of this podcast, Harry, about like judgment or calibrating ourselves. But now we're doing it in this weird way where we're looking at a fucking 3-line biography and a load of pictures that somebody's doctored themselves for hours and been through all the processes of painting this bigger picture, because it's not just that picture, it's this whole Instagram feed. This is, you know, Lucy Brown, and she's this girl here. And then you're when you're tuning into that, it's not just, oh, she's full of shit. We are tuning into it. Like we're all
Well, I think for anyone who's put in that much
effort.
of themselves into something like that, it becomes
Question.
an entity
Well, I did
in
have a
itself.
good story to tell about this, but I was
No,
interrupted.
go for it.
No,
I know. I need.
I'm done.
No, sorry. No, I didn't want to interfere.
You can't do
Move
that.
on.
No, you
Move
can't
on.
do
No,
that.
no.
I'll tell you what then. Knock.
Okay, who's there?
I'm not going to tell you. You can't do that. That's the perfect example. You can't do that.
No,
No, but it-
sorry for interfering with
Listen,
that story.
as far as a narrative, a continuous narrative goes, as much as this seems completely tangential in every area,
What
whichever,
happened with the girl, man?
Yeah, come on.
I'm telling you.
it's all linked though, isn't it?
Please.
I think this discussion is showing itself to be like we're all kind of trying to make our way through social media and the way we perceive, as you're saying, other people. But I think we're perceiving ourselves through these other people, because we're all trying to work out what the fuck's happening. Why are these people posting pictures of themselves that look a certain way? Or why are people putting quotes or memes or these words, these sentences out and kind of name stamping them as themselves, saying, this is what I believe and this is who I am. And then we're reading it and going, fucking hell, that's not, I remember you, I grew up with you at school. And is that, we're confused because we've got two versions of ourselves now. We've got the above ground, upwards, we see each other in Asda's and we freeze and we're fucked and
Yeah,
we're like,
that's
shit,
it. Yeah, you
dark
see these
down.
people in real
aliens.
life, and it's
Yeah.
cold, it's hesitant,
It's
it's,
weird.
I don't know you.
It's weird.
I'm
But
not
then
going to speak to you.
But then you whip your phone out and you drop down into the, and we've all been there, right? You've been in a restaurant or wherever, and you might have been the person on the end of this other person, but someone's gone, hey Joe, and then you pop up,
Well,
hey, and you haven't been here. Like driving sometimes.
You're totally out of it,
Yeah. And you're down in
somewhere
this other
else.
world. And in this other world, you've got all these likes or people or followers or friends. And they're all people that you kind of know out here, some of them, but there's a lot of them that aren't as well. And you've got a different community. Like, it's like when you look up here and for people listening, we were in the real world. I'm looking at these people across the table. To then changing when you dip your head down, you look into that phone, you become whatever that version is of you. You're not consciously projecting it, but you're going into it because there's a way you communicate to the other people who aren't quite who they are. So you go into that, and then all of a sudden, tea's ready, and you're like, "All right,
Totally.
I'll put that down.
You've somewhere else. You've literally looking in a portal.
Yeah, you've left.
Where you can access anything you want.
But it's because
Exactly.
we have
And
the
coming back to what
choice
Harry said earlier,
in
coming
your
back from
hand.
Thailand and going, fuck, what's changed here? I used to speak to people, now everyone's doing this.
Yeah.
And while he's recognising that, we're all thinking, oh no, this is normal. And then, soon we're going to be in a fucking, we're going to put a bodysuit on and a headgear and we're going to disappear into the fucking virtual reality world. But it's happening now. When we send text messages to each other, right, we've gone down the communication levels to this whole new realm of there's a whole set of different rules. Because if I'm in front of you and I say, Harry, do you fancy going to the blah 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 concert on Saturday? I've got 2 tickets, and you say, yeah, nice one. What time? 7:00. Wicked. If you then change that to text, hey Harry, I've got tickets for thingy on Saturday. You grab the text, you might pick it up at that moment. You might
I'm
choose
real bad for this.
You might choose to answer it now,
Yeah,
right? Or you might think, I need to think about that, and then fucking so much has changed just there, hasn't it? Because by the time you get around to
it's not real, is it?
You're interpreting that in your own
we
way.
start
Well, imagine when you
losing
didn't have
Interpret
phones
written.
and you would
It's not
arrange
real.
to meet someone. And you
have to
couldn't
be
text
there.
them, and you had to be on time. You had to be there. You had to honour your word. You couldn't just.
I remember
fucking
looking
back
for
when I
out.
read
just
something,
walking
you-
around the city, just looking for people. Fucking being knowing that you're literally just behind them. Oh no, they were here a few minutes ago. They went that way. All right, Sam. Cheers.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you get to the
messaging
next
thing.
quest giver with the feather in his head. Have you seen him?
Found a chest outside this cathedral or something.
But I find that anything encoded, anything in message, in text, you tend to interpret in your own way as opposed to
it's
the
horrible.
way in which
Context
it's
is horrible.
presented. You know what I mean?
Moods,
The
fucking
context.
everything. Yeah.
You
And if
interpret
you're
in
a
your
bit twisted
own.
yourself, someone can someone can just text back okay, and you're like, okay.
Well,
Yeah, well, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All of a sudden it's-
Exactly.
You need to.
You know.
I need to hear the voices, man.
I think you're right, Joe. And I think so
More than that, you need to see. You need to be face to face.
you've just had a difficult time, right? Something crazy's just happened. You've had I don't know, maybe you've had a near miss in the car, and you're in a lay-by, and someone nearly just drove into you irresponsibly, whatever, yeah. And you send a text to. You try and ring someone, you can't get through. You send a text to someone, and you go, look, oh fucking hell, this has just happened. I can't believe it. I'm on edge. The other person gets it, and they're just coming out of a shit meeting with something that's just
And they've
gone
gutted
wrong.
that you've seen that they've seen it.
Yeah, and then you've got to you look at this and you're not necessarily in a position where you go you've got the ability to just have the compassion to go, hang on a minute, that person requires you need something now. You know
attention.
Yeah, or maybe you've had a long day and you feel bad. You and the missus haven't been vibing, and you send her a message, but she's just on her way to see her mum, and her mum's just had a go at her for blah blah blah, and she gets the message, and it's not the right time to kind of. Do you know what I mean? But when you're in front of somebody, you're setting the tone, aren't you? And the dynamic, the physical energy that's not.
But that's also a skill in itself, being able to interact nowadays. A lot of people freak out.
can't.
I can be guilty of it.
Isn't that
And
an
even if
ailment
you
of
try
the
If
digital
you try
thing?
to interact with people these days, you can be seen
Physically.
as a fucking, weirdo.
I panic.
I sent a chick
panic.
flowers and fucking hell, that was a bad move.
I went to a restaurant last night, and the guy came to take my order.
Why
and
would
I
they not
panicked.
just be appreciative? Back
Well,
in the day,
what
'cause
happens,
You
right?
watch your rom-coms. That's a romantic gesture.
Yeah, but
You know what I
not-
mean?
don't know.
Sending a woman flowers. Women love flowers.
Well,
But you having sent a woman flowers and it was somehow
Oh, okay.
turned around. What's that?
Back to the Joker, yeah? So, when they depict him with the neighbour, the black girl in the lift,
Yeah.
yeah?
Ooh, by
that was
the way.
bizarre.
By this time, if you are
sorry.
still with us, we've already done the spoilers, we've already said, fuck, sorry. I'll do a spoiler thing in the intro, so at least you know. So there's, where we are now, it's like there's no holds barred.
But yeah, I know you're talking about
Black girl in the lift, and then
Ding Dong.
when it's playing out, which I think Todd Phillips does brilliantly directing the
Wasn't
Joker.
that all made up?
when he initially starts playing it out that he's seeing this girl, I'm kind of like, whoa, a bit knocked back, but I'm thinking, it didn't make me. It's only when he actually exposed it to me where I went, oh yeah.
But did that whole thing?
that was all made up, wasn't it?
That turned out not to have materialised.
That was a figment of his imagination.
But did that spin then not make you think that when he was, I think he was getting his hair done or something like that, and he was to go on the show with Robert De Niro? And he said to her, he's like, they're watching the TV, and he's like, I'm on there tonight or something like that. And I was thinking, is he? Because the black chick who was obviously like way out of his league.
Yeah, she was nice.
Obviously didn't seem to materialise. So.
Yeah, because that's bizarre, isn't it? Because that scene where he's in the hallway and he's just stood there.
Oh, it turns out he was in his gaff.
And he was in his head, he's obviously thinking, oh yeah. She took that well.
She likes me.
But
she's giving him
when you look at that situation for what it is, it's like...
Yeah, that was... Well, when you watch him do it looks dark. When you watch him do that,
again, this is what I mean.
Creepy.
It's looking past that fucking initial void of screen of judgment. Because he's not meaning nothing by it, is he?
Let's put yourself in that situation.
He's a simple fucking...
Let's put yourself in that situation. You're locking, you see your neighbour, and some you drop your keys or whatever, and out of the inconvenience, you make the joke of shooting yourself in the head.
He does look a bit creepy.
There's times when you've bumped into a fucking chick and you've done something daft, didn't they? Like, I've looked at a girl, I've been looking at her, and I've ended up walking into a fucking sign or something. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, fuck. But you carry on. But you're not going to fucking kidnap her, are you?
So what do you think, director-wise, Todd Phillips? Do you think there's any
kidnap?
Is that relative
in terms of like the darkness of it? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Is there any? Can we take anything? Is there anything relative to that, to how we do communicate, as we've just said before? That like the way we're texting each other now and building up these. You might So let's say we've got past the fucking the contrived picture and the bio, and we're into a bit of bat and ball in the inbox. We're in the inbox now, yeah. We've gone from the field area, where
slid into the DMs at this point.
Now we're into the DMs, right? So now you're like, right, this is DM territory. It's all changed. Now you soften up. You stop.
Next part of the process.
How does the Joker's kind of depiction of him and that neighbour? Is that saying anything about how we're doing it? Are we deluded about what's actually happening with this other person because we're blinded by our own kind of? Were we completely honest in that text?
Anybody really fucking knows what's going on?
I don't think anybody really is.
I don't think anybody knows what's going on. I think everybody's struggling.
That whole film, no one... Is empathy the right word? No one empathised with him. No one asked him how he was.
That's what I said earlier about that shows what this film measures people's level of the understanding.
Yeah, because he's a little bit weird.
Because he's weird.
You see him on the bus,
he's the weirdo.
Pulling faces at
he's the weirdo that you want to keep away from.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he's just a dude whose life is unfolding in a particular way against the all odd.
And he's trying to make the best of what he's got.
Yeah, he's just trying to.
He's just another guy. But you say that against all odds. You find out later in the film that he was beaten as a baby, unloved. Yeah. His whole existence is this
and
kind of really obscure lie.
He was made.
This obscure, messed up energy of twisted kind of version of reality. And he's just been born into that.
Shit fucking
knocked around and completely bent out of shape, which is something that
the main point of the story is if people have taken notice and dealt with it in a different way, never would have got to that point. And the fact that at the end of it, when he fucking blows De Niro's fucking head off,
I love that bit.
And then
and he's sat there twitching his leg and he's looking around the studio. That's brilliant.
He did look
absolutely brilliant.
But like the fact that he gets a massive following, like he's this weirdo fucking like and he's ended up killing matey on the TV,
and he's being exposed, and he knows he is.
But he's become really popular because of that. Highlights the fact that even though society is operating in the way that it is, the majority of people feel like he does. Do you know what I mean? And if you look at him as well, has appeared, they're all starting to come out of it. And I think that's like a little bit of a subtle fucking hint to community and
how we're behaving.
If you look at him as a person, he's been dragged through it. He's been real dragged through it, hasn't he? Like through the media and whatnot. Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. Well, his brother, River Phoenix.
Did you know his real surname's Bottom? I heard it on the Dave Berry.
Joaquin
breakfast
Bottom.
show.
Joaquin Bottom.
They're real, but his mum's name is Phoenix. So obviously they've used. You can't be a movie star called Joaquin Bottom, can you?
Joaquin Phoenix bottom.
Joaquin Phoenix.
in the bottom.
Joaquin Bottom, man.
Joaquin
What a
Bottom.
cool name.
Joaquin Bottom. What have you
Phoenix.
been up to at the weekend, mate?
Joaquin Bottom.
I heard a story that when he played Johnny Cash,
Joaquin Bottom. What, literally Joaquin Bottom.
he got an acclaimed. He got like awards and whatnot for his performance as Johnny Cash in Walk the Line, and like he wasn't really accredited for that because Johnny Cash lost his brother, and obviously they were saying that he was able to do such a good job because he lost his brother instead of just solely his acting capability. Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
And I think he took real offence to
who
that.
lost his brother?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, right.
River.
Johnny Cash says this.
His brother's River.
No, when
Phoenix,
he played the part of Johnny Cash, and he got a lot of attention and awards for that. A lot of critics were saying.
But that was a brilliant film, wasn't it?
Oh, and I think he sang as well in that. I think
did.
he
He did all the
it was
singing,
him, yeah, it
Wow.
was. Yeah, incredible.
And that really educated me on Johnny Cash as well. Like I've heard a few songs like through the old man and whatnot, but that educated me in that film.
And that was the only performance I'd seen of him prior
Listen,
to the Joker.
you say that we're sat
seen
here.
The Gladiator.
We're sat here as four brothers, right?
Yeah, you have.
I've not seen The Gladiator
Yes, you-
fully with my undivided attention.
Like, get out.
But
I know
listen to
it's
that.
I swear because if I
I
had,
could do it. I could.
if I
I
had-
could go through the whole movie with you right now. Word for
no,
word.
but I wouldn't go through it with you word for word.
I do all the parts.
It's one of them
I do all the
films.
parts.
It's one of them films that I really need to sit on my own and watch, but I've never
Hey,
done.
I like to
George,
watch it
that's a
with-
lovely thing though
me
sometimes
watch
because
it.
to know you've got a classic to sit on,
Yeah,
it's like
and
almost you don't want to
it's-
watch it.
Yeah.
It's like you want to wait and just save that for
Well,
like.
this is it. I've waited a long time, and everybody talks
Yeah,
about
fuck it,
Gladiator,
you can't
but it's
watch it
one of
now.
them films.
But the
I just want to say too long.
Fuck it, you
talking
can't watch
about talking about classic films.
yeah, go on, Jim.
I think we've all watched Casino. I watched it a long time ago. I've seen it a few times. And I know someone who hadn't watched it, so I felt it was like a responsibility. I needed to show him this film. And it's like a 3-hour film. It's a marathon. It's a long film. And at no point did I like look at my phone, like check the time. I was
Engaging.
what a film! And the guys, his mind was blown. What a film!
It's
I haven't watched that for a while.
great film.
It still holds
Great
up.
film.
It still holds
Classic.
up.
Classic.
To
One of
this
the- what-
day.
What are you
Yeah,
doing
and
now?
it's one of them films that you could watch. You could watch it 2 or 3 times,
Oh,
4 or 5.
100.
Yeah,
4 or 5.
it's classy.
Tell you what film I enjoyed, but I didn't expect, was that Prestige.
Oh, with Hugh Jackman and Christian
Yeah,
Bale.
the
Christian
magicians.
Bale's a
Yeah.
monster, isn't he? He's
Tell you
awesome.
what, that was fucking really good.
Yeah.
I think that is that.
Is that the bird, the magician?
The magicians, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're trying to outdo each other all the time.
I think it's a.
Yeah, he's
is
got,
it a
spoiler alert, he's got a twin.
Yeah, he's got a double. He's got a double.
That's the
Yeah, yeah.
twist.
Yeah. That's,
I'm trying to think. That's a director wise. That's the guy who did Memento.
With Guy Pearce.
Not seen that. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure it's
brilliant film.
Is it
Is that-
Sander
where he's-
Kleinenberg?
He's got the memory loss, short-term
Everything's
memory.
and
So he leaves himself little clues every day, and every day he's got to figure out.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he does Memento. I'm sure he does.
Who's in that? I've not
Talking
seen
of
that.
Christian Bale, though, I'm not sure if it's out yet. I may have got this from illegitimate
Okay, another
sources. It
spoiler.
may or may not have. Probably, yeah, it's definitely legitimate. Ford versus Ferrari, Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
Right. Okay.
Heard of it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I watched the
It's-
documentary. There's a Netflix documentary about the actual times and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I didn't realise like Le Mans, like how savage that is. It Le Mans?
Yeah, 24 hours.
Great. Oh man.
People
Fucking
dying
And,
every
and they
year.
really touch on like how every second you need to be there, sort of like every second. Educated me on Shelby. They sort of brought him in. They had a sick car, sick engine, but it just drove like shit.
Yeah, had
But
to
this one
refine
dude,
it.
And there was only one dude who could drive it and had this connection with him. This English dude who wasn't given any of the
well, that
credits.
happened in
Who bent over,
Rally
got
as
his
well.
pants, but the way they depict it,
Lancia.
amazing.
That happened with was it Lancia? Fuck knows. I can't remember. I'm not even going to go into it. I don't know enough.
I've
about
seen a couple of interviews where I think Matt Damon, Christian Batman.
Christopher Nolan,
No, Batman.
Christian
Bale, Batman.
Christian Bale Batman.
Christian Bale.
I've seen an interview. An interview with him, and it was ironically talking about like weight loss. They were doing an interview for the Shelby thing. But they were talking to him about weight loss because of the Joker thing and Joaquin Phoenix, and they were because obviously he did The Machinist, didn't he? Where he lost a lot of weight.
Oh
Got
yeah,
down
he
to
was twisted in that.
fucking like 8
He was
stone.
eating he was eating just a can of tuna every day,
Yeah.
and just on a treadmill.
And the interviewer was sort of pressing him about weight loss and the whole Joker thing and a couple of other things that have happened where people have lost a lot of weight.
And then he got juiced up for Batman. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You see how juiced he was.
It's some crazy
He was big in that.
Yeah, so there's a real.
Allegedly.
Christian Bale's one of those who's really
Intense.
yes, but then there is moments where he can kind of get behind the curtain a little bit, and he's kind of there's a softness there, but he's definitely
He's a hidden. I think he's a bit of a national treasure.
and he's English.
I heard
yeah.
a lot of people. Yeah, when he went up for to
Did you see
collect
that
an award.
war film he was in where he was a pilot and he gets shot down in
Oh,
Vietnam?
Black
What was
Hawk
it?
Down.
No, it's not Black Hawk Down.
Is it not?
I can't remember what it's
Oh,
No.
Rescue Dawn.
Rescue Dawn.
Dawn.
right.
Yes,
Rescue
true
Dawn.
story.
Yeah, that
True
was good.
story.
That was one of his first major roles, I think.
Yeah,
That was
he's,
a good
he's,
film.
about,
American Psycho was early as well.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
he's
Yeah.
powerful in that.
Fox
Isn't he? The
I remember
original.
watching that. I was young when I watched that. That fucked me up for a little while. Definitely.
Yeah, well, it would. I mean,
And my relationships.
He sold that chainsaw.
no, he's powerful. But no, I've not seen that yet. I haven't seen that yet. The Gentleman that was out, Guy Ritchie film. I've not seen that
I've not
yet.
seen that.
1917. Have you seen that yet?
Yes, I have seen it.
I haven't seen that yet.
What did you think to that?
It was well. First off, I went to go watch it. This real remote place in the woods. It's got a real retro theme. Red velvet seats. They have like a little half-time break. You can go get your little cups of ice cream. The dude calls you sir. He's got a little dicky bow on.
Yes. Do you get to whip him across? No.
It's nice, and everyone's just the whole. There's a sense of community there. It's a weird, real wicked little gem of a place.
Yeah.
I think I was shouting out Woodall Spa. It's
Yes.
Kinema in the
I know
Woods.
it. Kinema in the Woods. Yeah.
But
Beautiful
I've
little
probably
spot.
just ruined that place now. Hopefully, no.
I tell you what, if that
It's a
happens,
little
fucking
gem.
big up the Tudor Chat crew.
Well, you've got a book now. You've got a book now online. But I watched that film there in that setting, and it was
Well, you've been there once.
it was awesome.
Ah, it's a wicked
Yeah,
place.
I've only been there once as well.
That's funny, isn't it? Because how you've just that pull from the Kinema of the Woods for you
Yeah.
was all about the things we've just talked about that are missing.
Yeah.
Like,
Traditional.
Even you can't
Traditional.
mention the Kinema in the
Simplicity.
Woods without talking about the dude that pops up out of the stage with
The
the
usher.
oil.
Piano.
He never
The
turns
piano.
around, but he waves away and plays with his feet in one hand like a soldier, like a bad man.
Bad man. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I've only been there once.
What did you watch? Do you
They've
remember?
extended it, aren't
Jumanji. I think
They're
it was
extending it.
Jumanji, the remake. Was it?
I
What's
think the
that
first
thing with
Jumanji's
Ricky
bad.
Gervais where he's in a band and he's going touring? What was that?
Oh, that was. I made it halfway through, and I was like, "This is real uncomfortable." I think it's just David Brent on tour.
David Brent, yeah, on tour. I think I left it actually. Can't remember. It was ages ago.
You've got the old Jubilee Park as well, haven't you?
Little Spa, Jubilee Park.
Fond memories there as a boy.
It seemed
Yeah, he was
massive.
a
Didn't
young
it? You go back
child.
there, it's like a fucking puddle.
Yeah, it did. Everything used to seem massive as a child.
Like wagon
Even the
wheels.
playground at school used to seem massive.
Oh, we used to go there a lot as kids. We'd go fishing at the end of the day about 4:30 when everyone's getting out of the pool. You'd find rings. If you were lucky, maybe a washed up, scrumpled old paper
Aye.
fiver that you'd dry
Aye.
out on the way home.
Found a £10 note in the deep end.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you have goggles on? Or
Claim
did
to
you just?
fame.
Was it an instinctual thing? You just see this little thing in the blur and just know
You know
you
what?
saw the pink.
I don't think I had
Or was you
goggles on because the
stalking
water,
him?
you could
Saw that
open, you
pink
could open
lady.
your eyes in that water.
No.
I'm telling you how it was
When
the
you're a
deepest
kid.
of the deep.
No,
Right in
you
the
do.
bottom
It's
corner,
busy
like
in there
far,
now.
far corner from where you were laid. I found a folded up £10
Well,
note,
that
and that
pool's
was my
like
ice cream
Chernobyl
for the
now.
day.
That pool's like Chernobyl. You can't open your eyes in there now. You won't. That's
No.
it. See you later.
Was it on the surface or was it? down?
No, it was right on the bottom of the bottom of the
Yeah.
pool. Yeah, just
Must have been there,
just
wasn't it?
folded up, and I was like, jackpot. It was money. Ice cream.
And it
ice
was at
cream
the
for
age as
the
well.
day.
You basically just
Yeah, I
won a
was about
fortune.
fucking
Yeah,
nine.
10
From
quid.
the lottery, going to
Do
buy
you-
an house and that.
Do you know how many Kit Kats that is?
Do you know how many zaps that is?
Oh, that.
Zap. Yeah.
I've got a swerve.
Yeah, we
I've got a
remember
swerve for the conversation.
Swerve it.
I wanted to ask people in the kind of in the slipstream of this podcast, Tudor Chat podcast, being a new podcast, a long form conversational kind of interview, but not an interview, just chatting, chewing chat, kind of a setup. This Four Brothers thing is just basically
Random.
Oh,
I was just gonna say, but it's really nice.
A chance
This is
for us
nice.
to just
It's
get
random.
together and just have
This
a
is really,
catch
really
up. Do you know
nice.
what I mean? And not at the obligatory events and Christmas and this and that. And, we're all
birthdays.
guilty of not making the time when we need
Blah,
to.
blah.
So this is it's really lovely. It is nice, and I want to catch up and I want to find out. I want to know what podcasts are you boys listening to, and what's
Chew the Chat.
Well, big shout out Chew the Chat crew. But
Inside.
what are you on with? Because I've got a couple of that I've found that.
For me,
I
I mean,
find it's a medley, man. It really depends on my mood.
Yeah, which
how
is
my
beautiful.
day's gone.
yeah.
You
So
know,
what
you
so
can
what
go
are you on
deep.
with, Joe? Give us what
Well-
you're on with at the minute. What's your library looking like?
Well, I think the majority of people, JRE, it's out there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just the last few
I
days.
like the diversity of just all the mad different shit that's going on with him. Do you know what I mean? It's just
But for a while, I thought it was like there's only a few of us that know about it. And literally in the last 2 weeks, like I heard someone at work. I work in a place where there's there's no way you can know everyone. I heard these people say, "Oh, did you listen to Rogan last night?" And I was like, "Oh." Do you know what I mean? It was and then I went in. I delivered to this place.
Yeah,
It was
millions.
a bowling alley. Sorry. And as I walked in, I can hear this American voice. It wasn't Joe Rogan. And I was thinking, why have they just got a voice playing throughout this entire bowling alley? And as I walked out, I could hear Joe. I was thinking, fuck, everyone knows about it.
It's
now.
in the bowling alley.
It's global,
They were playing it in the
aren't we?
bowling alley.
So he's a staple for you. So
In
what,
Lincoln.
what else are you? So you're in a good mood if you're vibing on the comedy, or you want to go deep into maybe some
If I'm
learning.
feeling real silly, I'll just I'll put Two Bears in One Cave on. Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura.
Yeah.
You got Tom Segura who's real dry, and I feel like a lot of the times he's just totally trolling Bert, and he's just got no idea. And Bert's a real silly dude if you've ever watched it or not. If you're feeling real silly and dude, stick that on. It's pretty stupid, but it's good. But yeah, if I want to go deep, I mean, the content that Joe Rogan's got out there he has a lot of stand-up comedians on. He has a lot of silly people on, but then he has
a lot of serious people, a lot of fucking
Intellectual.
I mean, there's some
people.
that I can't listen to
Very
because it just goes
informative.
that deep that it's
Too
like,
much.
yeah.
So what about if you're just you want something on in the background, something that's got a bit of humour? What you got there?
Something with a bit of humour. Well, there's a couple of people on the road, again, the content that's out there. If you find someone on there that you like, the chances are there's maybe 2 or 3
what
on
about
there.
the church?
The church, what's happening now? Yeah, Joey Diaz.
Joey Diaz, big shout, Joey
Yeah,
Diaz.
if you
Tag
have-
Joey Diaz if you're listening to
There's a
this.
couple of times where I've had a morning joint and felt guilty and then stuck it. He does a little morning joint thing, and oh my days, it makes you feel so much better about it. It makes you feel glorious. Makes you feel glorious.
But he,
He
I
puts it
think
into perspective, man. He puts it into perspective.
Joey Diaz's Church of What's Happening Now is a great podcast. Check it out if you haven't. If you do like a bit of blue kind of New York
Soprano.
straight up, soprano comedy, it's great and it's real. But he does a really good job of doing the kind of, he can take you there because what a lot of Joey's stuff is he's lived
Uncle
such a
Joey.
colourful now.
Uncle Joey.
Uncle Coco, yeah.
Yeah.
There's son
What are
number
you
2.
doing?
Son number 2. What are you doing in here?
Me.
What you come to tell me?
We're playing a game and it's really cool. It's got a motorbiking and it's got
Is it Road Rash?
no.
No, is it a different one?
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's got a motorbiking and there's an old lady in it. And she's fat.
Is she fat?
She's a fat.
Fat old
Thank you for
lady in it on a
listening to Chew the Chat
motorbike?
podcast.
I want to know what game this is. A fat lady on a motorbike.
No, she goes on motorbike on a journey, and then she goes through some bushes, and she sees a tiger.
For the record, the kids have got a Mega Drive Mini with a USB chip with 40 games in it, so it's anyone's guess at this moment. Harry Potter would do it. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Go on.
Thank you for listening to the Chat podcast.
Yeah! Come on then, boy. I'll see you in a minute. That's son number 2, the powerful number 2. Just behind number 1,
What a lovely
always
boy.
in front
Lovely
of number
boy.
3. Yeah. Where we were,
Where were we?
Fucking hell, it's my job. It's my job to keep track of this.
Where we were?
I think we were into podcasts, and you were talking about.
Oh yeah, we were. That's right.
Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, and them ripping each other, and then we got onto the church of what's happening now.
Joey Diaz. Easy listening.
The way Joey Diaz combines, he can go deep. And often he's very biographical, isn't he? He talks a lot of stories of his growing up.
The amount of stories he has.
Remembers shit, man. I can't remember stuff. Can you remember, like, that era was 1984? I was fucking fingering two chicks. I had a blue t-shirt on. He can remember, can't he? But no, that's a great podcast for just kind of like, the loose edge of things, but with some real feeling kind of. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's someone who's living, taking the edge off of it a bit. What other stuff? What about if you want to learn something, Joseph? What are you listening to? Are you listening to like Desert Island Discs or anything like that? Is there anything biographical in that way you listen to?
There's a little podcast out there called Coffee Break Spanish. Actually, I've been trying to learn Spanish, but I've been on the same 3 episodes for literally about 13 months. But it's consciously there.
Who's this?
Now then, we've got someone else.
Number one.
What are you doing here, number one?
I was finding.
Number 2.
Why don't you come here and say,
Thank
you. I want to say my own words. I'm very angry. Say that now.
No.
Because that was you.
I want to say my own words.
Son number one is the one,
angry.
The one who said, no, I want to say my own words. I'm very angry. Go on.
So now's your chance to say your own words. Come on.
Thank you for listening to Chew the Chat podcast.
So what's up, darling?
I was going to find...
We're being invaded by Generation Millennium.
Can you see Daddy?
Well, listen, this has been fantastic. It's been wonderful. We've had invasions from young people. I think it's our cue. We've probably drunk plenty by now and oiled up the CBD plenty.
Yep.
So anybody who's stuck around and made it to this point, we appreciate it. I think...
if there is anybody, big love.
Yeah, totally.
Big love, that's what we're here for.
We did say
we'll get used to it, won't we?
We put a disclaimer in at the start. We did say, look, this is probably going to be gobbledygook and nonsense and probably offensive, but it's your choice to be here.
This is the first time that 3 of us have sat here in front of a mic.
Yeah.
Just talking.
Yeah.
Random.
Yeah.
It's early days, Chew the Chat's only had a few episodes out, but we wanted to bring this in because I wanted to, number one, if we're being truthful, just have an excuse to get together because the life is busy right now. Everybody's got shit to do and we're all, we're all going to die and we never make the time. So it's just an excuse to get together. On top of that, we get to record it. The other generations will get to listen to it. And if there's anybody out there who is listening to this and does take something and thinks, fucking hell, yeah, I thought I was the only one mad behind my eyes or whatever, or at least I'm not a thick cunt, whatever it may be. We're pleased you're with us and it's awesome. We're just trying to survive, aren't we, at the end of the day? So thank you, everybody. It's been awesome.
Thank you for listening to Chew the Chat podcast.
We'll link everybody in. We'll be back. We'll do this again. This is a light-hearted kick out from Chew the Chat podcast with 4 brothers just telling it how we are trying to get through it. There you go.
Take care. Look after yourselves.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, brothers. Thank everybody.
Peace.
Peace.
I want to do my own words.
Thank you for listening to Chew the Chat podcast.
Thank you for listening to Chew the Cat podcast.
Chew the cat.
I want to say my own words.
Go on then.
Very angry.
Oh, good Lord. Well, if you've managed to get to this point, congratulations. That was my brothers and myself catching up. It was their first podcast. It was our first time seeing each other all together for a little while, so we were a little bit excited. Lots of brandy and lots of CBD and lots of fun and love, and obviously the younger generation jumping in there to remind us that we need to get back to life. So really enjoyed that. We will refine ourselves. I think we'll be a bit better at clipping and not talking all over each other and letting one another finish stories and all of the simple things that on reflection when we listen to this will make sense. But yeah, definitely an enjoyable way to catch up with the brothers and just, kind of share, how we're feeling. Because as I think this podcast kind of, although it was chaos and it didn't seem like it had a theme, there was a little bit of a theme running through it, which kind of felt like through media, through social media, through film, through podcast or whatever, everybody's feeling the pace of life these days. Input, data, communication, whether we were talking about the way that we're, dating's going down and selfies and how we respond to text messages as opposed to speaking to people in real life, or, the anxiety that it brings speaking to people in real life these days with the way that everything's changing. Yeah, there was a theme in there that I think's worth paying attention to. And it's also a nice kind of offshoot from the main podcast. We can sort of let loose a little bit, and there's a bit more going on, clearly. But looking forward to doing that again with the boys. So again, thank you very much if you stuck with us, and you'll get to know the boys, Harry, Joseph and George, over time. And in the tradition of the podcast, I'm sure we will touch, our shared upbringings, and we'll talk about, how our childhoods and our journeys have affected us, and it'll all come through over time, I'm sure. And yeah, I think we'll have a lot of fun with the Four Brothers podcast. Okay. Thanking sponsors. Obviously, the powerful Go Deep Flotation. If you've listened to these podcasts, then you know by now that little itch that you've got. You think, oh, it does sound, it sounds good. I ought to pull the trigger. Do it. Go down to Go Deep Flotation. Just Google them now. 11 inches of warm, salty water. 600 kilograms of Epsom salts await you. With the buoyancy, I think, twice the Red Sea, something like that. It's beautiful. It's silky. You lift that lid down, hit that lovely LED light off, and that sonic bliss will kick in for 10 minutes at the beginning. You lay back, let your body sink into the salt water, all of the alleviation of gravity, inflammation on the bones, the joints, the ligaments, and then let your mind drift into wherever it needs to go. The housekeeping, the first 20 minutes of just thoughts coming in, all the things you've dusted under the rug, all the things you need to do. They start to come in, you process them, and all of a sudden you find the motivation, you find the discipline, and you'll right those wrongs. And then you'll drift in and out of the crazy limbo, and it's a wondrous thing. I mean, so many different things can happen in such a simple setting, which is just to lay in the buoyancy of salt water for an hour, cut off from the five senses. It's fantastic. You will feel amazing, you will sleep amazing, and if you've got any interest in your long-term health and, trying to keep yourself in good fettle over the long course, start floating, because the universe is watching and understands that you're putting in the effort. And you go meet the universe when you float. You'll literally float into the universe. It's fantastic. GoDeepFlotation.com, code CHEW, and you will get 10% off, and those guys will look after you. They are wonderful people. We also want to thank our sponsor, Lincolnshire Cryotherapy Lab at Function First, Dixon Street, Lincoln. In a similar vein, it's the same principles. Look after the meat wagon, look after the meat machine, because this thing is carrying you around and has done for however many years you've gotten so far, and there's a few left. And if you want to get the most out of those ones you've got left, this one, the outcome's the same. You're going to do something physically and mentally for yourself that is fantastic, and I cannot do it justice. The science, the knowledge, Google it. That's all I'm saying. Google it. Spend 10 minutes. Google what cryotherapy does, and you will stand in I can only kind of describe to most people who understand it as like a sunbed, I guess, like a stand-up sunbed, but your head comes out the top. You wear a pair of gloves and a pair of Croc socks on your feet to protect your extremities, and you do 3 minutes, and you go down to kind of minus 145, 155 temperature, and it basically just shocks your body into your vital organs. and then spins that blood, reproduces that blood as just refined blood. And so when you get out, it sends it back around your body, and it kind of kills off all of the weak cells and just reproduces itself. It's fantastic. It's an amazing thing. It is a strange sensation because it's not cold as you understand cold or you've known it before. It is cold. I can't dress it up, but it's 3 minutes. And half of the job, I think, is the mind over the matter. You know, you're standing there. I took my mother, for instance. She'll be 60 this year. She does pole exercise to keep strong. And she's got her own demons to deal with psychologically, physically, as we all have. And it did her wonders, absolute wonders. She said she didn't feel of this planet for a little while. She just felt a really light, lifted elevation, physically, mentally. And when she climbed out of it, I honestly thought, oh, what have I done in, dragging my mum down to cryotherapy, because I'm always banging on at her, and pretty much anybody who knows me, people I care about doing these couple of treatments because of how beneficial they are for well-being, for mind, for hormones, mood, for just betterment of your life, and she climbed out, and I thought, oh shit, she doesn't look too chuffed. Then literally, in no time at all, she's got her clothes on. She stood next to me. We're just waiting for the next person to finish. And I asked her how she feels. She said, actually, I feel really good now. And then when we went out to the car, 10 minutes later, when we were leaving the centre, I asked her again. And she said, oh, I can't. I feel like I just feel wonderful. I'd like to lay down, but I feel really energised. And then later that evening, on that particular day, I actually did a blog of this, actually. If you go over to the Chew the Chat Instagram account, you can find there's a short blog on there of that day. But yeah, later on that evening, it was actually my birthday, and my wife had arranged a kind of a surprise meal, family meal. And I wasn't expecting this, of course, and my mum was there, and it was interesting because I asked her, how do you feel? And she literally, she was high, let's put it like that. And my mum's conventional, and she was just on a natural endorphin rush. She just felt great, and that was just her mood, never mind what her body would have experienced with all that blood being freshened and zapped back through her veins, So cryotherapy is something to check out, just like the flotation. In line with this podcast, it might not feel like it's linked at this moment, as you're scrolling through your Instagrams and scrolling through your Facebooks and scrolling through your Netflix and what we're going to watch, and data and input and relationships and jobs that we don't enjoy and stress and all these things that we take for granted, that are just having a major impact on how we are and how we have any kind of ability to function to others, to dictate how our positivity finds its way back into the world. So check it out. Dixon Street Function First is the club where these facilities are. It's Lincolnshire Cryotherapy. If you use the code word CHEW, you will get 10% off. It's 3 minutes. And again, I promise, anybody who does this, they're gonna come out with this wacky feeling of like, whoa, God has just blown life into me. It's awesome. Check them out. You can find them at lincolncryolab.co.uk. All right, that is enough from me. This has been a waffling one. I feel the effects of yesterday. This is the following afternoon as I do these intros and outros. I don't drink a lot, but I did drink a lot yesterday, but it was fantastic. So thanks again to everybody. Thanks to my brothers, and we can't wait to do the next episode. Speaking of next episodes, the next episode after this one is going to be with Jane Martin. A quick synopsis on Jane. She was a high-flying financier. She graduated from the London School of Economics, and she worked her way up through various jobs and ended up as a financier over in Hong Kong. She was the international portfolio manager for HSBC. And she was flying as high as 1% fly. Until one day when she had a vaccine. And that vaccine triggered something in Jane that, as you'll find out in the podcast, just spun everything and her whole world upside down. And without going too far into it, today she's a practicing shaman. She has a project called The Heart Shed, where she's using the results of her journey and her, I will call it trauma, but it's a triumph as well, to help other people. It's going to be a 2-parter. I mean, this was a mind blower, this one. It was some trip. Lovely lady, Jane, and she's been to both ends of the spectrum. So yeah, really looking forward to getting that out. So that's going to be the next episode with Jane Martin. So stick around for that. That's going to be really cool. In the meantime, thanks again, everybody. It's crackers. I'm not even going to bang on about the international fan base that's growing, but we're adding Europeans now. We've got French. We've got big figures coming along now in France. You know, and I say big figures in a humble way. You know, it's only a little podcast, but you know, when you start to see multiples in these different countries, it's crazy. And Germany as well. So big shout to you guys. Thank you for joining us in our little club at Chew the Chat. It's wonderful to have you. Yeah, keep sharing, keep liking, keep rating, reviewing. You know, if you do like this, take a moment. I know it's a fucking ball ache and you love it in your heart, that's great. But if you can jot a sentence down, it really does help with the algorithm, and lets other people like you and like me find this thing. Yeah, and anybody, you know, you want to get in touch with us, you can email chewthechatpodcast@gmail.com. If you fancy sharing your story, or you've got a friend or somebody you think would really fit the ethos of this podcast, then let us know. Jump on there, follow us on the socials. You can find us everywhere, and we're just grateful. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Peace.